Oh man, tough loss for Texas baseball, but a tough stretch for Texas baseball as well. Fifth game in 5 days. We'll talk about that coming up next segment. Also, NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Adam Schefter, he is reporting something that my man Patrick he hypothesized a few weeks ago. The Texans may pass on quarterback at number 2 overall. I hate that theory is gaining steam. We'll discuss it. We'll dive into it. Also, Mel Kiper's latest mock draft. Bryce Young now the favorite based on the Vegas odds to be the number 1 overall pick. And we'll also get into a discussion about the front office of the Texans that may surprise some. We'll also dive into Steve Sarkisian and spring football, of course, coming up this weekend. Craig Way, the voice of the Longhorns, had a interview with Steve Sarkisian along with Jeff Howe of Horns 24/7 on Light the Tower. We'll replay that for you coming up in the 6 o'clock. And also we got some Sark audio because Sark is spreading the love these days. He was on with the Pivot guys. We'll talk about that as well. Ton to get into. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He was a second-round pick for the Montreal Expos, but a first-round pick for the Austin Radio Network. He originally committed to the University of Texas, but decided to forego the 40 acres and chase his dream in the cheese. Pimping ain't easy, but for this man, it's a breeze. He is Mike Hardball Hards, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, brother?
Man, what it do? It's a hump day edition of Ball Don't Lie, and I'm excited about it because there's so much that is going on that we need to get to talk about. Portal news. There's so many things that are happening. But you know what? Football is right around the corner, and I can't wait to get it going. But let me tell you about my man that sits across from me every single day. He hails from H-Town with the Get Down. He's a lifetime Longhorn and a proud card-carrying member of DBU. Legendary lifetime and now College Football Hall of Fame Longhorn, Derek Johnson said he was the best cover corner he had ever seen. He's a former NFL DB that still has that passion for film study, but he's not a fan of white condiments. But, of course, he is a fan of you, the listeners. He is my man and yours, Rod Babers.
I appreciate that intro as always. Let's not waste any time introducing the real MVP, one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. We don't know what he's paid. We do know he's underpaid. It's Patrick Davis. What's going on, Patrick?
Oh, hanging in there.
All right, we got a lot to get into. I'm sure Patrick's excited because he's an NBA guy. You got the postseason officially started, which we'll get into here in a second. We'll review and then preview if we have some time here coming up with the game tonight. If we don't get to the preview of the game tonight, then we'll do that again coming up in the top of the 5 o'clock. But there is news to get to on the 40 acres, and we know the transfer portal giveth and it taketh away. Well, right now for Texas football, it's taken away one of their wide receiver prospects. It looks like Brennan Thompson, according to multiple sources, this comes from Rivals. They're the first ones, but I guess it's multiple sources that they are reporting that Texas freshman wide receiver Brennan Thompson has requested to enter the transfer portal after one season at Texas. Remember, he is a dual sport athlete as well.
Yes.
He is tracks. He's obviously a member of the track team and a member of the football team. So I assume wherever he's going, that will also be a factor in his decision making. But I mean, he kind of fit the mold of a Sark guy.
Exactly.
Speed demon, a little undersized, but obviously a guy that can take the top off a defense. That is something that he'll do for another team because he's moving on to what he deems as greener pastures, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he was somebody that I really wanted to see play because I thought if we could get that speed on the base pass and see base pass. Talking about baseball all the time.
We wish we could.
We could probably get him out there.
Hey, we saw it on the right. We saw it in track and field.
That's
saw it on
right.
the track. Saw it in the football field a little bit. I'm with you.
Yeah,
might as well put him out there.
Maybe we could get him out there and run some bases
pinch
for
running,
it. That's
man.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. But I was wanting to see him either on a punt return, maybe some kickoff returns if he wasn't going to be a factor in the wide receiver room. And now you add in all the factors that have now happened. You bring in a Jonte Cook. You bring in DeAndre Moore. You also bring in A.D. Mitchell. And you look and see where you fit. Isaiah Nayor is supposed to be back. You're adding in all these top-level wide receivers or what we think can be top-level wide receivers. And maybe that room got a little bit too crowded for him. He's from West Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a shot to go back in that area. Or better yet, he's also was recruited at the end by Oregon. So Oregon, they love those, and they love those type of wide receivers.
Speed guys.
Yeah. So that might be a play as well. So I'd be interested to see, and I'm going to follow this kid's career. It's so funny to me, especially in this day and age, when you look at the social media. Obviously, Charlie Strong, he seems to be a prophet. When he talks about the downfall of society is the internet.
Social media?
Social media is right there. So you start looking at it. But it's always amazing to me when a kid is deciding to go elsewhere. Everyone, well, bye. He wasn't going to play anyway. How about, why are you got to be so negative? Just say, hey, man, best of luck to that young man. This is a decision that was made for him and his family, and this is going to be a good move for him. Okay.
Yeah, that to me, I remember early on when guys were transferring, when the transfer portal did have a negative stigma attached to it, that you would get people that would have kind of a negative perception of guys leaving. They assumed that they're disloyal somehow.
Right.
I think now that we are in the transfer portal era and you don't have to worry about the penalty of having to sit a year, the stigma has been lifted to a certain extent. Every and also it used to be, or at least when we were looking at attrition rates, it used to be something that we thought was negative about a program if they had higher attrition rates. These days, it actually doesn't necessarily mean that it is something's wrong with the program.
Agreed.
It could just be that you're having a huge amount of turnover that season, and everybody's dealing with higher attrition rates just because it's a transfer portal era. It give it, then it take it away. You're going to have guys naturally that are going to hit the transfer portal era. And I bet most teams now, high-level Power 5 teams, they have the number of guys that they expect to hit the transfer portal.
Yes.
You got to go down your roster and look at every guy's situation and assume, all right, you know what, this guy may end up hitting the transfer portal. I'm sure they already know that, but yeah, you can't be criticizing players for hitting the transfer portal. If I was playing in this era today, and I wasn't playing and I was third in the depth chart, I'd be in the transfer portal.
No doubt.
I started as a sophomore and I started with 3 or 4 games as a freshman. Even if I was in the transfer portal, if I had my career went the exact same way as it did back in 99 to 02, I wouldn't have been in the transfer portal. I loved Texas, and I had no reason to look elsewhere.
Right.
I mean, I was playing early. I was playing a lot.
Right. You were playing a lot.
So I think that's a big part of it.
That's a credit to you too, because you came in with the mindset of, I'm here for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And not saying that nobody else did, right? It's just the way it is. Coach Akina saw something in you and was like, I'm going to give Rod his opportunity right now. Go on out there and do your thing, man. There's sometimes you walk into a great situation for yourself. And then there's times you come into a situation where, think about the guys that came in after you that were looking at you like, man, I can't. And Quentin Jammer, it's like, man.
But those guys didn't leave, though.
Right, but they were.
The Huff Daddies, the Aaron Rosses, Cedric Griffins. I mean, they obviously not forced to stay, but you had a penalty for leaving back then in transfer portal.
Right.
So those guys stayed, and DBU became DBU. So I totally get the other side of people like, oh, man, you shouldn't have this flexibility and this type of freedom. I'm all for players' rights. I think the players should have this. Student athletes should have this flexibility. I think it's good overall for the sport. We just have to have, at one point, more checks and balances.
No doubt.
Some more guardrails with all of this, transfer portal and NIL. But ultimately, I mean, I expect to see, upwards of potentially 8-9 more players for Texas into the transfer portal.
You might be right.
And you know what? What that means is that you're stacking so much talent that you have really talented players who are looking at the players in front of them and going, I don't have a path to play.
Right. Where's my spot going to be? Yeah.
Where's my path to play?
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
that guy's going to start for a couple of years. The guy in front of me is really good. Now, you could just have that much belief in yourself, and the argument on the other side is have more belief in yourself.
Yep.
Work harder. And I get that side.
If you watch the film,
and you know that guy's good.
Exactly.
You know
You're
that guy's
like,
good.
hey, that dude out there balling, man. I can't. I have faith in myself, but oh boy, is out there killing it.
Have faith, but don't be stupid.
Also have sense.
Have faith and have sense. No, you're right. I was gonna say, in this day and age, I assume I would have stayed because I was just a different personality, but I don't I don't know for sure. I assume Robbie would have stayed because Robbie would have forced his way on the damn field.
Exactly.
Even with this group of DBs out there. Man, as a matter of fact, especially with this group of DBs out there, Robbie would be. I know they are talented, get better.
Yeah, but
Robbie would be. I guess starting field corner would be Rodney. Rod Davis, starting field corner. Opposite Rod was done deal. Or the nickel. You name it.
I will be on that field. That's right.
So I assume Hards felt the same way.
100%.
Yeah. Also, you other guys, I wonder how y'all gonna deal with the transfer portal.
Good luck to y'all, man. Stay in touch.
It's hard out there.
Hey, hit me on my pager.
Let's stay in touch, guys. Let's really do that. You know what I mean? We're friends.
I'm in here.
We're teammates for life.
That's right. Hey, let's get the tat.
I mean, that's it. It's an interesting conversation because, I mean, a lot of these guys now, they go into it knowing, hey, I got that other option. When we went to school back in my day, the transfer portal was not a consideration.
Right. No, not at all.
Because you had to pay the penalty for going to the transfer portal, and nobody wanted to do that.
Exactly.
That was considered kind of a death sentence.
But that's the difference in today's society. Not society, but in the way that the structure is made up.
It should be that way.
Exactly.
I'm glad it's that way.
Exactly.
I'm glad it's that way. But like I said, I think there's a different mentality going into it now than when you stack your roster now. You just know the guys that you're stacking those talented players on top of, they're going to look for a path to play, and it may not be at your university.
No doubt.
And you know what? Okay.
It's okay.
PD's got a great song called More Money, More Problems. And I believe it's actually on B.I.G.'s album, but pretty much. Anyway, more money, more problems.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems that you want to have when you're getting more talent. More talent, more problems.
More talent, more problems.
Well, that's a problem we're going to deal with.
That's right. I'll take that all day.
I think that's just one of those things.
And there's also been reported, too, that freshman linebacker Travell Johnson is also requested to enter the transfer portal, and that source is from Rivals and Rivals Portal. He was the ranked number 20 inside linebacker in the class of 2022. So C.J. Vogel, who's funny, he said, I guess the spring meetings are taking place right now.
Damn right they are.
So it's like, hey, might as well go ahead and start looking now, guys.
And I'm good for Sark.
Yeah.
If he's having these very frank conversations,
being
honest conversations about guys like, hey man, I don't think you have a path to play. And then the player probably agrees, like, yeah, I don't have a path to play. I'm probably getting out of here.
Right.
I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
And they will have opportunities. I mean, trust me. The whole point is, if you want your roster so talented, and you can go look at the last group of transfer players, transfer acquisitions, I should say, from last semester. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the Texas players last season that decided to transfer, they ended up, the guys from that team, they ended up on Power 5 rosters.
Right.
At the highest, playing at the highest levels. I mean, I'll go track it, but that's what you want ultimately. You would like the guys who cannot have, or at least they don't see a path to play on your roster, to go elsewhere, and then not only be able to sign a scholarship there, but also find a path to play there. Because that would show you that your talent level is now being lifted to a much higher level.
Yeah.
And that's what hopefully you're starting to see with Texas, even with some of these quality transfers. All right, let's talk about the play-in games that happened last night. Let's talk about the Lakers first and their win. The Lakers, like TNT, they love the drama. It was a 108-102 overtime win for the Lakers. And, it was scary for a while. I thought Minnesota was going to find a way to win this game. They had control of the game. But in the late stages, and I've talked about this, and we've talked about it on the show, that the NBA playoffs are all about defense, teams that can do it on both ends of the floor. Everybody in the NBA can score now. Now it's all about what teams actually can get stops at crucial times. Minnesota had 95 points with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Had an overtime period too. But basically, they ended up with only 102 points. So you're talking about 7 points the rest of the fourth quarter and overtime. They only had 11 turnovers and 5 field goals, 16 points, I believe, in fourth quarter and overtime.
Yeah.
That's where they lost the game.
You are 100% correct with that number, Texas. The Lakers had 19 points in the fourth and 10 in overtime. But let's be honest. The Lakers they scraped by that game. There's no way, because you just gave those numbers. You just gave the numbers about how bad they played, and those were missed layups, those were missed shots, those were missed bunnies. There were so many opportunities for the Timberwolves to beat the Lakers, and everybody's like, "Oh, them Lakers, man, they doing their thing." No, they should have lost that game. Think about if Rudy Gobert would have been in there. I know Patrick is not a Rudy Gobert fan, especially of late. But think about Daniels. Was it McDaniels? McDaniels, the defender that broke his hand?
Yes, think
if he would have been in there playing defense in that game. And Taurean Prince was playing some lockdown defense last night, former Baylor product. He was actually playing good defense. If he would have hit a shot, they might have won that game. But other than that, the Lakers still scare me. I'm glad that they got the dub. It's good for, like you said, the NBA, because people are going to watch and tune in to see what LeBron will do, whether they love him or they hate him. They're going to sit there and watch this matchup. But you sit there and you look at the Timberwolves and you're like, dog, y'all choked, man. You had an opportunity to win that ball game. And if you make a bucket here or there, to your point, looking at what happened in that fourth quarter and overtime, you got to be ashamed of yourself when you walk away from that game.
Yeah, you had it.
Yes.
The Lakers had a slow start. You had it.
Yes.
They really did.
You were dialed. You had that opportunity right there.
Yeah, I would say that, and I would say the Minnesota Timberwolves went cold more so than the Lakers started playing more lockdown defense. But the Lakers actually did play some good defense too. You talked about it. So, it's hard to say it wasn't a meltdown by the Minnesota Timberwolves, but the Lakers found a way in clutch time to make clutch shots.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns got in foul trouble, and that spelled the end because they were playing so much better with him on the court. And once he came off the court, it was pretty much they couldn't produce the offense at the level they were producing before. In all reality, the Timberwolves should be happy because they shouldn't have been in that game to begin with.
Right.
And they just, like the Hawks did in the other game, they came out with a really good game plan and so much more intensity than the Lakers did. Really played hard for it, and they just weren't able to keep it up. I think the lack of, players being out and injured, it just ended up that they were too tired at the end of that game, and the foul trouble and everything else got bailed out there at the end of the game with a terrible call for that three-pointer.
Oh, yeah, the foul on Anthony
Horrible.
Davis.
If they would have lost that game, then that ref should have had some repercussions for calling that BS to end a game. It's like, he missed it. He didn't get a good shot up. Anthony Davis didn't touch him until the ball was halfway to the basket.
Right.
Don't call that foul with 0.1 on the game clock. It's a bad call.
But if you go back and watch that was bad defense by Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you helping LeBron on the top of the key? I'm like, why are you trying to double team some guy when you know if you're gonna lose a game, let it be on LeBron. LeBron does not need help. Don't let somebody flash into the back. They threw that ball all the way across the court for him to be even able to get that shot off. I'm like, that's why he got the foul, because he was so lazy on that defensive end.
And it was a switch. I think that too it was a switch where he didn't realize he was switching and then lost his guy.
Uh-oh.
No, it's just he lost his guy in it, which that's not the time you want that to happen. But I think he just lost his guy at a point.
Out of control on the closeout, too. But, I agree. I don't know if it should have been a foul. I heard Zay talk about it. He doesn't think it should have been a foul either. But you're right about...
Because he's the best referee in the state of Texas.
I know, Zay. He always brags about his officiating skill. But to Patrick's point about Cat, he had 24 points with 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Dude, he only attempted 2 more shots.
Yeah.
The rest of the game, he missed both of them and went scoreless. The rest of the game. Mm-hmm. Now, the foul trouble, of course, that's a big part of it. But, man, you talk about the fourth quarter and overtime, hell, and even the last couple of minutes of the third quarter, basically Cat disappears for the rest of the contest.
Yeah, and his fifth foul was a stupid one, too.
It was a stupid one.
It was a stupid one where you're like, dude, you got 5 fouls. Like, we saw LeBron James with 5 fouls. Anthony Edwards gets a steal. LeBron James normally goes for that block. He realizes he has 5 fouls, lets him go and go, man, that's 2 points. We didn't get it, but I have to be able to get back. Like, I can't foul out of this game. Well, whereas Karl Anthony Towns just does a lazy closeout on Anthony Davis for a rebound he wasn't going to get anyway.
Right.
And fouls him and picks up his 5th foul. That's kind of always been the MO of Karl Anthony Towns. In big games, he doesn't react in the way, like, he plays offense good, but just the rest of the game he doesn't think enough.
Yeah.
Well, I just think, with him getting in foul trouble, that's a good point, Patrick. Like that offense went into a stall pretty much. And it really tracks and lines up with them in the fourth quarter and overtime, only making 5 field goals and having 16 points. That he basically was a non-factor.
Yeah. And I want to apologize to the listeners. I told y'all to tune in to watch Anthony Edwards. Lost. My man was struggling last night.
He played some decent defense, but that was about it.
Yeah, his numbers were not good. I mean, he was 3 of 17, 0 of 9 from the 3-point line.
And by the way, his 3 field goals, all layups.
Yeah.
And two of them were in overtime. One was on a fast break. He just didn't. They really shut him down.
Not good
much.
At all.
Yeah, I don't know if he has a shoulder injury, right, or something like that. I don't know.
So
if that was it.
They were showing the shoulder injury, but I think that's from when he took the fall.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So they were acting like it was there all game, but I was like, he took that really hard fall and like braced himself with his arm.
And in a row.
And I think that's when he hit that and when he hurt it. But it's not a shooting arm.
Okay.
And so it shouldn't have been.
Well,
and it was, I believe, 3 in the fourth quarter.
I think he's trying to. Well, maybe they're trying to throw that out there as an excuse.
Oh yeah, they definitely need it.
I was hurt before the game.
I think because I've heard that a couple of times now. I was like, he was dealing with a shoulder injury. And I was like, okay, guess he's dealing with a shoulder.
You better get better because you got to play another game on Thursday now.
Exactly, you're coming right back to play another game.
You can't play like that. That's a good point though, RJ. He was also talk about the offense.
Yeah.
That was also a big part of why it went into a stall because he didn't have it the entire game.
Not at all.
And the Lakers, I'll throw this out there too. The Lakers, this was a big part of why they won was the free throw line.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I can't believe this. They went 13 of 13 in the third and the fourth quarter from the free throw line. They did have a miss, I believe, down the stretch when the game was already in hand by Anthony Davis.
22 of 24.
22 of 24.
Yeah.
For the game. That is where they basically won the game. And how about this? They normally shoot like 78%.
Yes, and LeBron actually made 3 free throws.
Yeah,
but he wasn't doing it at the end of the game. You see, I'm gonna dish that off. Dennis Schroeder, let me get this to you, bro, because I don't want to shoot this shot.
That was the right play, though, was it not? Was that not the right call?
I've been a big fan of the way that he plays, but you know as well as I do, people eat him up because he's supposed to be the man, and he doesn't take that shot. I'm glad he always makes the right basketball play.
That's the right decision.
He always does.
Yeah.
And people light him up, but they don't understand. Sometimes it's not my job. Michael passed it to Steve Kerr.
I remember that.
And
Paxson
John
too.
Paxson.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I don't understand. He's taking his fair share of
all
game
the time.
winners.
Yes, he's right there with Kobe. They had a report come out the other day.
And let's also say, I think there's a difference of a down shot and to take the lead shot.
Right.
Because they were tied. So if he passes that and Schroeder doesn't hit it, they still go to overtime, right?
Yep.
So it wasn't as bad as now if you're going like, hey man, we're down 1, we're down 2, you gotta hit this.
Yeah.
Or are we playing Thursday? Then it's more of like, hey LeBron, we prefer you to take that one.
Yeah. It's still, hey man, it was money.
It was.
Either way.
It was
perfect. It was a great
It was
play.
a great pass.
And
they said that Schroeder had missed one before when he did that. He had came down, gave him the pass, and he missed it earlier in the season. So this time he came in, he said, man, I made sure I made this one.
Yeah. No doubt. And it's, man, they thank God they had him step up because D'Angelo Russell did not have it.
No, he did not.
And so it seemed like maybe playing against his old team, maybe he was too amped up, whatever it was.
It was him and Anthony Edwards looking bad towards each other. Let's see who could play worse tonight.
Well, they canceled each other out.
Exactly.
Yeah. And after those late game turnovers, do you think Rudy Gobert had any words for Kyle Anderson?
Oh, definitely. Dribbling the ball in the backcourt and just throwing the ball out of bounds.
Some of those big turnovers, Rudy Gobert just wants to come back and go, hey, man, I think I got a word to call you now.
Giving him a stink eye.
Yeah, he's looking at him. Mm-hmm.
Looking at him sideways.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, LeBron also, he ended up with 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. He was 12 of 21. Anthony Davis, 24 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 assists. He also had 3 blocks. And then Schroeder with his 21 off the bench. That was huge for them. He was plus 24.
Yeah.
And plus minus in the final 2 quarters. So he was magnificent for them down the stretch.
8 of 8 from the free throw line.
Yeah, that was the biggest surprise for the Lakers.
Yep.
I mean, they are not considered a great free throw shooting team, but in that game they were excellent. 92% as a team.
Now they get the rest up for Dylan Brooks. You see, I didn't even bring up Ja. I brought up Dylan Brooks because he said he wants that smoke for a 7-game series. This is legacy stuff.
Hey, you know what?
This is legacy.
You know what? Good for him. Giving LeBron a little motivation.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get into breaking that down. What are your early feels on Memphis?
I just think Memphis
LA?
is too quick for them.
Young and
They're
quick,
young,
man.
and Ja, this is what Ja been waiting for. Mm-hmm. That's why he got suspended this year. He wanted to take a break for this. I'm going to go over here and act a fool and get everybody to think I'm all right. Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be a good series, actually.
I think it goes 7. I think it's a 7-game series. That's the one thing that I keep saying. If you got to play LeBron in 7 games, it is tough to beat him like that. You might it may go 4-3. You know what I'm saying? It may come down to a game 7. And I would put my money on LeBron if it goes 7.
That's a good point. I agree. If you don't want to put LeBron away before 7, because anything can happen in a game 7.
Exactly.
You don't want to be in that scenario. All right, real quick, jumping over to the other side, Atlanta. I was a little surprised by this one, guys. I had Miami in this matchup.
You and everybody else.
Yeah, Atlanta ends up with the win, 116-105 over the Miami Heat. And guys, it was the board just kind of where you start, right?
Yes.
The most glaring of the stats that stands out from this matchup. Atlanta out-rebounded Miami 63-39.
It was those second chance rebounds too.
22-6 on the offensive board.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
That run that they were on, every second shot they got, and they got the bucket every single time. They would shoot a 3, get the long rebound. They were out of position. They tap it to each other, and then boom, a dunk, a layup, another 3-pointer. It was unreal that the Miami Heat could not get rebounds at all.
And they're not a bad rebounding team.
No, they're one of the better ones.
Bam Adebayo was the only guy who was even going for it.
Exactly. Jimmy Butler was missing bunnies the entire game. And you sit there and remember
and
yesterday.
Lowry,
yes.
the guy we said we forgot about. He scored 33.
He's looked bad for 2.5, 3 years. And that dude all of a sudden was just like, what did Patrick say? Got it.
And that's what I was just about to say about Clint Capella against me. I was like, Clint Capella, he's not going to be a present. 21 rebounds yesterday.
Yeah, he balled out.
I'm like, man, they must have been listening to us. They were like, okay, we got that motivation.
They want to make us all look stupid. So mission accomplished.
Yeah. Ding, ding.
I know Quinn Snyder has a house here in Austin, so maybe he got the word.
Yeah, somebody called him and said, these guys said you can't rebound.
Bulletin board material?
Exactly.
I would love that. That'd be awesome. 4 Hawks reserves combined for 53 points.
Unbelievable.
Sadiq Bey, Bogdanovich, also Aganku, and Jalen Johnson combined for 53 points off the bench.
Balling.
So those 2 stats, that stat and then the rebounding stat, that is how they beat the Heat. And they honestly it was a blowout from the get-go.
Yes.
They made it close late. They made a run, the Heat did, but honestly, that was a boring game to watch.
Yeah, it was the effort was all one-sided, and then Miami was trying to shoot threes to get back in the game, which they're not a three-point shooting team.
That's true.
So I don't know why Eric Spoelstra didn't call a timeout and was like, hey, guys, you know we suck at this, right? Let's get to the basket. Get it to Bam Adebayo. They can't stop him.
Right.
Yeah.
He'd go all day, and then no, we're just going to keep shooting threes to try and get it back and then not rebound.
Oh, man, you wasted Kyle Lowry's best game as a Miami Heat player. And you would have thought, if somebody told you before the game that Kyle Lowry was going to score 33, you'd have been like, oh, man, they blow him out.
Yes.
They blow him out. Because Tyler Hero had 26.
That's it. That's what he's supposed to do.
That's
what he's supposed to do.
He did that. You had the bonus of 33 from Kyle Lowry and still got blown out pretty much. I know it was a closer score than the game would indicate, but that was a blowout pretty much.
Unreal.
All right, we come back. We got Texas baseball. Speaking of unreal, lost to Texas State last night. It's actually just a little bit more real considering it was their 5th game in 5 days. We'll talk about that on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie. Wonderful on the Horn.
Mike Harge here, and I want to talk to you about Pest Wranglers. Pest Wranglers services most of the Central Texas area. If you're needing help with mosquitoes, termites, rodents, or inspections for residential or commercial properties, please give Pest Wranglers a call at 512-670-7808 or go to the website at pestwranglers.com. The company was started with the premonition of making sure that you are treated well. And that's the way that they continue to move their business. They're locally owned and a family business that was started in 2006 with its basic principle of great customer service leads to happy customers. PetWranglers.com. Make sure you go there today. Pest Wranglers won't make you sign a contract because they believe in keeping their customers happy, and they will be happy. 5-star ratings on Google, Yelp, Angie's List, and all referral sites. My pest of the week, Chicago Cubs, Marcus Stroman. He is the leading pitcher in the major league. He's 2-0 with an ERA of 0.0. He's got 14 Ks. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't be a pest, and if you have them running around your house, go to PestWranglers.com.
All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a midweek movie music edition of Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. That's when we play jams from a soundtrack. My man Patrick plays jams from a soundtrack. And based on the selections that are played, Harj and I are supposed to be able to gather clues and hints that lead us to the featured film of midweek movie music. And we should know this one. It's not Mannequin, is it? We talked about it yesterday. Let's throw it out there.
That's a good one, though. I like that.
Is it Overboard?
No.
Okay. I'm just throwing out like where I may have heard this song, like soundtracks I may have heard this song. Oh.
I know this movie.
It's not with the Griswolds or anything, is it? It's not a vacation movie?
Because it's not that time of the year yet, right?
Well, they still have like it's a random vacation
they
movie.
have a summer vacation.
So it's not like a random vacation movie, the first one. So like, yeah. But
okay, this is Rod's favorite question. Is it something that we've seen?
Yes.
I knew it.
You definitely have seen it. We've definitely seen it.
And I'll be fair. This song is probably in
like
10 to 15 movie
I know.
soundtracks.
That's why I'm just trying to think about songs that
So, yeah, you may have to wait a couple. You may have to wait another one and see if you can pick it up.
Oh, gosh. I don't like that answer.
Yeah. All right. I definitely am going to feel bad for not knowing this one. I know
me
it.
too.
I can tell right now. Because I should know it. That song.
We might know about it.
That song's in like 5 movies,
Yeah.
and I've seen all 5. I guarantee you. Because I'm just saying. Because I can see it, and I definitely can see it in multiple movies. He's right. So you probably have to rate to the second.
So have
clue.
I.
You have as well.
Like,
yes, all
man.
of us. All right, let's get to some text. We'll get back to midweek movie music. Let's get to Texas baseball here, Harj. We knew that Texas baseball was being pushed to the limit, if you will. 5 games in 5 days. They finally hit that wall with a loss to Texas State, 9-3. What'd you see last night when you watched the game?
I just saw some at-bats that were given away. And what I mean by that is situationally, again, there's my word. There were some times that they came up where they could have pounded the baseball and did some different things, and they weren't being as aggressive, especially when you know that this is probably the back end of their pitching staff. You know, as a hitter, you would always look for that Sunday guy, and you'd be like, oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? When you go into a series, I would always look to say, who's pitching that third game? Because you always get their best early. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That third guy is probably he's obviously not the Friday guy, and he probably is going to pitch another time during the week. So you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I can be aggressive. That is what Texas State did. They got a chance to see some guys that didn't pitch a lot for Texas this year. A lot of them were making their first appearances. And they took advantage of it. And when they did, they kept hitting the ball in the gaps.
Yeah.
When they had runners on, they were driving them in. And this is something, too, that Coach Pierce is giving you this opportunity to play. You got to make the most of it. You got to make the most of your opportunities because maybe he wants to bring you in another situation, like we were talking about with Kobe Minchie or Monday night. He went out and pitched well, and he served well for himself. So now he may get another opportunity in a different situation. So there's so many things that plays into each game. Yes, they played 5 games in 5 days. That's okay. They're baseball players. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do. But
that's the job.
Yeah, but when you don't have the arms and they don't have the experience, that is when you run into that little bit of trouble yesterday.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of those runs scored by Texas State were basically to pitchers who came into the game, who hadn't had a lot of action all season long.
Exactly.
And like you said, you got to take advantage of the opportunity.
Because now I'm here.
That's on you. Yeah.
Now I'm here.
That's how you get more reps. That's how you end up getting more playing time. But if any Longhorn fan out there is upset, take it into perspective that a lot of those guys were at the back end of the rotations of the pitching lineup,
the bullpen and everything.
Too.
Yeah. So, and I thought Ace Whitehead threw the ball well. He gave him a chance, and we went 4 innings, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. But there was times that he pitched his way out of innings. I thought he threw the ball well. But you start seeing names like O'Bannon, who that was his first time out, Howard, Grubbs, Duplantier, and Loomis. Those are guys that the only one that you can really say has done a lot here at the university is Duplantier. I mean, he's the one that has got the most experience.
Yeah, he's got some skins on the wall.
So he's been out there, and he's still coming back from that injury, and I don't know if he's fully 100%. I mean, I know he's well enough to be out there, but I don't think he's back to where he was before he had the injury.
I love this stat that 7 of the 9 runs scored by Texas State were credited to 3 pitchers who came into the game with combined 11 innings pitched.
Right.
It's a nice little stat there from Nash. But yeah, no, it is. That's so to your point that the good news is that stat I just gave you, but the bad news is those guys didn't take advantage of the opportunity.
Exactly.
And they didn't cash in on them. But yeah, once you are in a more you are in a more regular schedule.
Correct.
Right? And I think the Texas baseball team responds. They don't have what's the next toughest stretch? You don't got to stretch like 5 games in 5 days.
You don't.
No more the rest
of the season.
That was because of weather and other issues.
Because you would have been off on Sunday, and then you would have played Monday and Tuesday. You would have been off today and tomorrow, and then you play again on Friday.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday.
So they'll have more. They'll have more time. Normality kicks in now. That was just kind of a outlier on the schedule.
One offer.
Because of the weather, and hopefully we don't have any more weather like that.
Yeah. Please.
But end up 3-2 in that stretch of 5 games in 5 days. Texas baseball. Are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm cool. I'm cool with that. I think again, this is a team that we're still learning about. They're still feeling their way out. I know people are like, "Wait, what?" We just told you there was a bunch of guys that got a chance to pitch that weren't used to being out there. You had some guys that had to step up in different positions to do different things. They're still trying to piece these things together. The only consistent part is the outfield.
Yeah.
You know, you're running the same 3 guys out there. Mitchell Daly's playing a good shortstop now. This was a guy that everybody was like, man, I don't know, man. I mean, you were replacing Trey Faltini. You know what I'm saying? And then he was the second baseman for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So you're still learning. You're just now getting Peyton Powell comfortable over there at third base. He was a catcher, played some first, moves around. And now you got Jack O'Dowd playing second base for you every day. So these guys are now building some credit now. So Coach Pierce feels a lot better with his team, and then you got Gilmet behind the plate. I mean, you got pieces, man.
No, and this is a team that's playing really well.
Right.
I mean, obviously, even in that stretch, which everybody agrees was a difficult stretch of 5 games in 5 days.
Yeah.
It's a team that's playing really well, that really found their groove after starting the year on a bit of a rough patch.
No doubt.
So I like what they've done so far. They've solved some problems. I always say coaches are problem solvers.
There you go.
Identify what the problems are. They had a bunch of them early on to start the season, and then you just start fixing problems as the season goes on. Start plugging holes. All right, you start fixing problems, and then you end up, toward the end of the season, hopefully, with not as many issues and weaknesses on your team because you have a pretty stable group of guys and you fixed all of the glaring issues that exist for you. And I think David Pierce done a really good job of fixing some of the glaring issues. What would you say are the issues that still need to be addressed? Even after they've done a great job, of course, of fixing issues, what else needs to be addressed for this team to reach their ultimate goal or to reach, whatever their expectation is this year?
I think they need to execute better. You know what I'm saying? I still believe that they're missing out on some hidden runs. I know Coach Pierce has put some of those on, and they still haven't gotten those down. And it's going to still come down, how do you handle situationally late in games? Late in games when the game gets tight. I think the pitching staff on the later half with Zane Morehouse, he's been outstanding. He's been outstanding coming out of the bullpen after he was starting games earlier this year.
Yeah.
I think execution with hit and run, situational stuff, runners in scoring position, not letting the ball pass, and if you get a pitch that you can handle, you jump all over it. Don't sit there and be so selective that you're not going to be able to drive in and run. If there's ducks on the pond, I heard Craig Way and them talking about sayings today, about certain sayings. So I want to throw out there, when there's ducks on the pond, knock them in.
Hey, I like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Nice
Make sure you get that money that's out there. Remember I told you, one of my favorite sayings from my very first hitting coach, Jay Ward, he said, Harge, there's runners in scoring position. You know what that leads to? You drive them in, gold chains and foreign cars. I was like, I'll never forget that.
Gold chains and
foreign cars.
I like that.
Yeah.
Straight cash home.
Straight cash home.
All right. We'll come back. We got the flex on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. By now, everyone knows that my go-to tequila is Hot Cat Tequila. It's my favorite new tequila, and I guarantee you, folks, it'll be yours, too. All you got to do is try it once. The cat stands for cinnamon, agave, and tequila, and the recipe is just as simple, and it's just as brilliant and delicious. It's just cinnamon, agave, nectar, and tequila. So if you're celebrating, you want to celebrate with Hot Cat Tequila. That's why it's so light, it's so smooth, sometimes a little too smooth. It's a tequila lover's dream, and if you're not a fan of tequila, you can try Hot Cat, and it'll turn you into a fan of tequila. It'll turn any event into a party, and every party feels like a celebration. So celebrate and turn up with Hot Cat Tequila. And once you try Hot Cat, you'll never go back to that old cinnamon whiskey or that cheap tequila you were ordering rounds of when you were just trying to get the party started. So turn up your party with Hot Cat Tequila. It's the perfect way to pregame for any big game, concert, festival, or any night on the town with family and friends. Best served cold for a quick round of shots or to sip on the rocks. So visit cattequila.com. That's cattequila.com to find a store near you that sells Hot Cat Tequila or to find a bar near you that serves Hot Cat Tequila. Toast and turn up with Hot Cat Tequila. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Midweek movie music edition of Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Harge and I a bit stumped trying to figure out what the song is. Patrick playing songs from the soundtrack of a movie that has inspired him somehow, and plays those songs for us for midweek movie music. And based on the selections, Harge and I are supposed to gather clues and hints that lead us to the featured film of midweek movie music. And this is so specific.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I do not have it at all. I know.
I don't either.
I know. I'm going to be upset with myself because I think I can kind of see a scene. All right, I have to wait on the next hint. And usually the 4 o'clock is
Do we have to?
That's the no-brainer. That's the softball usually. Yeah. Okay. I know the Specs Texon probably has it by now because these are very specific.
I've not seen the Specs Texon get it right yet.
Really?
Oh, no. Really?
Ooh.
Again, the first one was in a lot of movies, so they may be right. Though that was in another movie.
It was in a lot of movies,
movie,
yeah. But this one, that one's not.
Yeah.
No.
Ooh.
Brother,
Okay.
this.
I know.
I know this.
You know it too.
Yes. I'm going to be so mad when he tells us the name of the movie. I'm going to be so mad.
Is it Rush Hour or something?
No.
Well, he popped up real quick. I was like, hey, wait, what?
I'm just trying to. I don't know. I'm trying to think about movies that could be.
I always want to say, what's the Hughes brother? What's his name that make all the movie?
Could be a Hughes brother movie. No.
I think it is.
Ask him. Maybe he'll tell you.
It ain't 16 Candles, is it?
No.
Nope.
Nah. That second one, I don't know what it is.
Up the volume.
That second song came out way after 16 Candles.
I know that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like the second song
so
takes it
done.
away from that. It takes you in a different direction. Anyway, all right. Go to FLXATX.com. Go to FLXATX on all of your social media platforms. Once again, my man Patrick has us stumped when it comes to midweek movie music.
I'm sitting over here thinking hard too. My head hurt thinking about this stuff.
Well, if you want to ease your anxiety, go to FLXATX.com. They have some great content up there for you. They have the Austin area 7-on-7 state qualifying tournament dates. You can go check that out. Also, the UIL soccer state tournament information is up there as well. And they actually have some national letter of intent.
Yes.
Information nuggets up there, I should say, from the 2023 class. So you can go check that out. A lot of stuff up there for you. And tonight, you got the Flex Crew.
We got the Flex.
You got the Flex happening tonight with the Flex Crew right after we're done at 7 p.m. So you want to stick around for that. They got all of the info, the 411 on the happenings happening right here in Central Texas as it relates to all of the local high school sports. So tune in at 7 o'clock right here on 104.9 The Horn for the Flex Crew starting up, the Wednesday night Flex as they call it.
Yeah.
All right, we come back. We'll get into NFL news, notes, and nuggets. I'm blaming Patrick for this, honestly. I'm blaming Patrick. Patrick brought this theory up like a month ago, and I was like, I hope you're wrong about that theory, but it was just something he hypothesized. Now, it is gaining steam because Adam Schefter now is the latest to say the Texans, he's not sold on the Texans taking a quarterback at number 2. He's just saying it's not a guarantee.
Right.
Which it should be.
It should be.
It should be.
If you didn't mess it up.
But now this theory, one of these that my man Patrick hypothesized months ago is now gaining some steam. I'm hoping it's just a silly season talk. So we'll get into that. Also, we'll talk about why C.J. Stroud's stock is dropping.
Yes.
It ain't rising, so that you got to be dropping. And there are theories out there now. They're both with theories. Trey Wingo threw one out there and Mike Lombardi. So we have that audio. Patrick pulled it, so we'll play that, and maybe that's why his stock is dropping. Mel Kiper's got another mock draft out. We'll get into that too. And you know what? We gotta show some love to Charlie Strong.
We do.
I mean, CB sent it via Twitter. Turns out Charlie Strong might have been on to something. Said it years ago. And he said it in a modest way, but turns out he might have been on to something. And we all know it's true now.
And the final part of what he said is the most significant part about it.
We didn't quite listen. We got to get that too. We didn't quite listen.
Yep.
Yeah. And Charlie wasn't right about a lot here in Texas, but he was right about this, damn it. And we'll get into that on the other side a little bit. Also, Hard Knock Life, we got Jared Sadler coming on. Talk Rangers with us.
Talk Rangers, that's
all
right.
All right, so we got jam-packed 4 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. Right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn.
Mike Harge here. I want to talk to you about my friends over at Quick Roofing. Let me ask you a quick question. How often do you think about your roof? Probably when it rains, maybe some high winds, or maybe even some hail in certain areas. But I guarantee you don't think about it enough. Do yourself a favor, go over to quickroofing.com. Let me tell you about my friends over at Quick Roofing. The story that they started this business with is so inspiring. Jeff Quick started this company with just one roof. And now 39 years later, they've done over 200,000 projects. You don't stay in business that long if you're not taking care of your customers. Plus, you have to have that great reputation for customer service. You get a free, no-obligation inspection. You get a 7-year workmanship warranty. Quick Roofing is fully insured and have all state and local licenses. Quick Roofing doesn't even require any money up front until 100% completion and, of course, 100% satisfaction. Oh, yeah, they want to make sure that a project manager is on every job site, ensuring that you, the customer, get everything that you were promised. So what are you waiting for? Reach out today and get a free inspection. Go to quickroofing.com today. That is quickroofing.com.
Is it Back to the Future?
Man, y'all are way off. It's not a comedy.
It's not a. Okay. Midweek movie music, which means my man Patrick is taking songs from a soundtrack of a movie, and he plays those selections for us based on the songs that are played. We're supposed to gather clues and hints that lead us to the featured film of Midweek movie music, and we are lost. And this is supposed to be the layup. This is the softball.
This is the layup. I mean, this is a pretty big scene in this movie.
Is it? No, it's not Ferris Bueller's Day Off or anything.
All right. Can we tell you that he's talking about Huey Lewis in this scene?
Is it Fletch?
Do you know what movie does the main character talk about Huey Lewis?
Oh, wow.
I have no clue, Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. This is a
I'm
very...
going to the text line.
No. I don't want to see the text line. Don't do it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
All right,
actually.
let me turn it on.
I'd rather Patrick give it to us. I want the
put it
text
in
line
there.
to give
It
it
is
to us.
not a comedy.
It's not a comedy.
It is a
and all
thriller.
these songs.
It is a thriller.
What?
Wow.
And he talks about Huey Lewis?
Yeah. He does it right
American Psycho.
There you go.
Oh, man, can I believe I didn't get that?
Yeah.
I'm so upset with myself.
I would have never got it, guys. I would have
He
never
talks
got
about
it.
Huey
He
Lewis.
talks about Huey Lewis right before he kills the guy.
And you know what got me? I was like, what psychopath is talking about it? I was like, psychopath. I literally, I was like, what psychopath talking about Huey Lewis in the movie? And it's your thriller you gave. Okay, that gave me. I kept thinking comedy.
Yeah. No,
because
that's I knew that it was going to throw you off.
Because it is kind of a dark comedy.
It is kind of a dark comedy. And the soundtrack sounds like it's an 80s comedy.
Wow, that was magnificent.
That
I'm
is.
going to stand up, Patrick, and give you standing
You were
round of
right, man.
applause.
I had no clue.
And that is such a great movie. Christian Bale's, that is his breakout performance.
Yeah.
That's when the world gets to know Christian Bale. Oh, magnificent. And you're right, the soundtrack has got to be good. Because his musical taste is so specific.
Yeah.
Oh, well done. All right. We're
So
not
he
worthy.
talked
We're not worthy.
So
We're
in
not worthy.
the movie, when he's got the guy drugged and on the chair,
Yes.
he's like, "Have you ever heard of? Do you listen to much Huey Lewis?"
starts
And he puts
breaking
it
it
on, and
down.
then he starts telling about how great Huey Lewis is
Oh.
while he's like sharpening an axe.
No, I'm talking about
Oh, my
like he
goodness.
gets into he's like a music snob.
Yeah.
So he gets deep into like
I would have never gotten that because, number one, I hadn't seen American Psycho.
You never seen American Psycho?
No.
You should watch it.
I don't do those.
What you mean?
I'm not.
What's
a,
those?
I'm
What's
not.
that?
I'm not a thriller type of movie.
Oh, okay.
I like comedies. I like to laugh.
It is a dark comedy technically. Technically it's a dark.
I like
it's
bright. I
just-
like bright comedies.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want it to be too dark.
It's a dark. It's probably one of the darkest comedies in the history of American film, but it's still technically it's comedic.
Okay.
Like they're literally like I think most of the moments in it are considered to be supposed to be comedic.
Okay.
But you got to have a sinister sense of humor.
I don't have that sick sense.
No,
of humor.
well done, Patrick. That's good. That was fantastic. I'm like, what the hell? I know all the songs, and I was like, I know these scenes, and he's right. I should have known that scene. I'm disappointed in myself.
Yep.
So hard, you had no shot. This is on me.
Zero.
That's on me. The disappointment's on me. I
I
apologize.
was trying every other thing to think of. Weird science. I was trying to think.
Well, the best hint was that it's not a comedy, and we were all going comedy for some reason because
of the music.
And like I say, it is kind of a comedy because of the music, but yeah, that's a great point. All right, Specs text line 512-337-3776. That is the number to the Specs text line. You can always hit us up via Twitter as well. Patrick is at It's Patrick Davis in Twitterverse, the real MVP, and my man Harge is at Hardball Harge. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. All right, let's get right to it because Adam Schefter. He was on NFL Live and said something, dropped a bit of a bombshell on people. And I'll give Patrick some credit. He threw this out there a couple of months ago as a possible theory as to one of the options for the Texans with the number 2 overall pick. And essentially it involved them passing on the quarterback position at the number 2 overall pick and going defense. Well, now Adam Schefter is now jumping on that bandwagon and saying that it is not a guarantee that the Texans are going to take a quarterback with the number 2 overall pick. Here's Adam Schefter on NFL Live.
What do you think their plans are from what you're hearing?
Well, we're trying to figure it out. But again, I think there's a lot of conflicting signals and information out there about what Houston is going to do at 2. And I think a lot of people have assumed it's just going to be a quarterback. And in the end, I'm just not convinced just yet that that's going to be the case. Now, I do think that we have Bryce Young slated to be the favorite, number 1, Carolina. Then Houston's on the clock. And what does Houston do? And it becomes interesting if Houston decides to auction off that pick to somebody who wants to come up and trade for a quarterback at number 2, or whether Houston wants to go with a quarterback of its own, or whether Houston wants to go with one of the top defensive players. All I'm saying is I don't think it's a lock that Houston is going quarterback at 2. That's all I'm saying.
Adam, it's amazing. We keep talking about number 3, but we got 6 teams or maybe more trying to get to number 3. Why not get to number 2 if the Texans are shopping it? I love it. We have a lot more coming your way on NFL Live.
Okay. It looks like the Texans.
My man took a deep breath.
It looks like it's a possibility. No, because Patrick mentioned it as just doing research and just kind of scuttlebutt that he's heard. Lance Zierlein recently also threw it out there. And this is a guy that's plugged in down there in H-Town and also works for NFL.com too. And then now you got Adam Schefter on it the closer we get to the draft. Now, I'm hoping it's just silly season. And they're just throwing this stuff out there. And I will say also, and we'll talk about it too coming up because I think Mike Lombardi gets into it a little bit when he's talking about C.J. Stroud. But the Texans have been pretty tight-lipped. There's not a lot of information coming out about what the Texans are going to do. Mm-hmm. So maybe these guys are reaching. But if you're going to pass on quarterback at the number 2 overall pick, and that doesn't mean they're not going to get a quarterback in this draft. Lance Zierlein, his mock draft has them passing on a quarterback at number 2 and then trading back up to get Will Levis, I believe, in his last mock draft there too. And I mean, Patrick's theory was next year QB draft, right? That would be the focus. If they don't pass it, they go next year, top of that draft. And that could also happen too. Here's if they're going to do it, and I'm not going to totally dismiss the idea as a Texans fan. I think they should go quarterback. I think it would be the right thing to do. But if they're not going to go quarterback and maybe they're not going to go quarterback because they love Bryce Young and they like C.J. Stroud. They don't love C.J. Stroud. I'm not going to get on them because, hey, man, if you've done your research and it tells you there's a distance, there's separation between those two quarterbacks, then you know what? Go with your evaluation. If you want to go with next year's draft or you want to go with a quarterback lower in the draft, but you got to get maximum value for that number 2 overall pick. You need to be trying to get multiple early round picks or multiple first round picks in the future or even in this draft for that number 1 overall pick. Now, you already got 2 in this draft and 2 in next year's draft.
I think it should be for next year's draft. I think
you try to get 3 in next year's draft or you try to get more second round?
I think it's next year's draft that you try to go get the most out of it.
That's what you got to do.
Because you don't know. I mean, if you're going to walk away from Stroud, let's just say Stroud is going to end up being the guy that is sitting there for number 2. Let's just say that. Why is it that you're going to go back out there and tank again? I don't understand it. Is that because you just want to – are you going to try to go get somebody else and you think Davis Mills can lead you to a decent number? I don't think so because you would have did that before. Is this the new organization taking over the thought process of saying we're going to do this a different way? I don't know. And that's the other part that I don't get is like you've worked so hard at being so bad so you could be at this point. Like, how many?
You screwed up the tankathon, though. You screwed it up. You messed it up.
All the way around.
Yeah, because this is why you are here now.
That's why you're here.
We shouldn't be having this conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You failed.
You failed.
Miserably.
Yes.
At failing miserably. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Because you wanted this guy at number 1.
That's good.
And you went out there and you made yourself fall to number 2. So now you're going to do it again to your fans? They weren't there last year. They weren't there for you last year. And then you go out and you're talking about we're about to make this move. Do you want to see – does DeMeco Ryans want to go through a year after being with a very successful organization in the 49ers? You're planning to get to the Super Bowl year after year. And now all of a sudden you're coming to the Texans and you're not even going to get the quarterback that is there for you? Because there's no guarantees for next year either.
Well, no, but I'll tell you this. I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at another quarterback in the draft and they want to move back and take that quarterback later. Now, the problem is if that quarterback is Will Levis, then you probably can't move back further than 4 and still get it.
To guarantee you getting your guy.
So that makes it where this trade to trade the number 2 pick away becomes way harder because you can only really move back a spot or 2. And those guys don't necessarily, like Arizona doesn't want to move up. They want to move out too. So you'd have to work a 3-team deal to switch with Arizona, and then a 3rd team comes in because Indy ain't talking to you because they're in your division and they want a QB. But I could believe that if we know Bobby Slowick came up with Kyle Shanahan, and we know Kyle Shanahan has certain proclivities in picking quarterbacks, they might like Will Levis.
I remember before the draft.
But you can't get a project at that point.
I agree. I'm just saying this.
I got you.
No. To Patrick's point, remember before the draft, there was a report, even from Chris Sims, who I know personally is a really good friend of Kyle Shanahan. Like I am as well. He said that Mac Jones was where Kyle Shanahan wanted to go, and that he had to kind of be talked out of Mac Jones into the Trey Lance pick.
I would have. Mac Jones would have been perfect for that because he's better.
Because Shannon's like, all I need is a guy that's going to manage the game really well. My offense will do the rest.
Right.
So there is that report. And remember, we know the Shanahan clan favored Kirk Cousins over RG3.
Yeah.
The ownership of the Washington team, Snyder, wanted them to go with RG3, and they were like, okay, we'll do what you want. We're going to do what we want in the fourth round. And they drafted Kirk Cousins in the fourth round. So, yeah, the Shanahan clan, they have had, at least history tells us, they do have a type they like at QB. And maybe he's part of that, and if that is the case, then maybe Will Levis fits that a little bit better as kind of the more prototypical pocket passer, more so. C.J. Stroud
eats the cover of bananas, too.
And puts mayonnaise in his coffee.
Yeah,
he's off my list. That's like, you can't be my franchise quarterback.
He would be perfect for American Psycho.
There's a great. That's a great point. You're eating the bananas with the peel, with the banana peel still on. What is wrong with you?
And it was brown. He's doing it with the brown one. Yeah.
It was softer. It was the softer version.
And you're putting mayonnaise in your coffee?
Yeah.
First of all, if that's just a bit, bad bit. If you're starving for attention to that extent, you can't be my franchise quarterback.
My gosh.
And I'll throw this out there too, because there's a great. I don't know if you guys watch Succession on HBO.
I have not.
It's one of the probably top 5 best shows on television right now. It's really, really good. But there was a scene a couple of weeks ago, not trying to spoil anything, it's not going to spoil anything, but there's a line from the dad a couple of weeks ago talking to his kids in the show, and he just says, he said, I love you guys, but you are not serious people. And I feel like that about Will Levis.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he's got a lot to like, but I don't think Will Levis is really a serious person.
And by
I
all
want to build
accounts,
my franchise around Will Levis.
By all accounts, he's been terrible in the interviews.
Yeah, he's got some Drew Lock in him.
I like
Drew
that.
Lock had a little bit of that
like
too.
that.
Like, you're not serious enough. There's nothing wrong with you going to have some fun. That's great. I love it. It's all good. But I don't need to build my franchise around someone who's not a serious person.
All right, let me ask you this. You have a girl back over at the house. Best night of your life. Everything's great. You wake up in the morning. She's like, you want to make some coffee? And then you watch her put mayonnaise in the coffee and eat a banana with it on. How fast are you calling the police on this woman?
Exactly. That's a deal breaker.
There's someone crazy in my house. I don't trust this woman.
That no matter how hot she is, she could be a 9.5 or 10. You're like, man, I got to rethink this thing. Why? She put mayonnaise in the coffee. And all your friends will go, okay. All right, that's fair. You do need to rethink that. She might be an American Psycho, full circle.
Exactly.
Getting back to it. Okay, so why? So the Texans are here because their own bad decisions, right? We're hoping rock bottom can be a trampoline for the Texans because they've hit rock bottom already and are working their way back up. But this is a fustercluck of a franchise for the most part, and they got a lot of issues. And the C.J. Stroud conversation, so why the Texans may be so desperate as to decide to go away from quarterback. If they can't get Bryce Young, they're deciding potentially to go defense or to trade down. Why would they be so dissatisfied in their evaluation of C.J. Stroud? So we got 2 bits of audio here. First, let's listen to Trey Wingo. And we have that audio, Patrick, that you pulled. And this is from the 33rd. It is a website basically devoted to football. And they do a really good job. But Trey Wingo was on there and saying that he's got sources telling him there's something going around. I don't know what it is going around that is dropping the draft stock of one C.J. Stroud. Here is Trey Wingo.
I don't want to go into specifics here, but you alluded to it last week, and I did some research this week and talked to some people, and they said the same things. There are things in the equation, Ari, that are giving the Carolina Panthers pause about C.J. Stroud, and that may be why they're leaning back towards Bryce Young.
Okay. So, and he didn't get into detail. Listen to the rest of the clip, and they were it's very vague about what's going on. But it's the scouting season, and I would say scouts are just critics. So if it's a scouting season, what do critics do? Well, they criticize. They're critics. All right? And I think what's going on right now is you're getting the critical season, all these scouts. They tell you what's wrong with a player, not necessarily what's good about a player. Hell, you can watch a player and go, oh, he's good at A, B, and C. It takes a trained eye to find out what the liabilities are in a skill set. Right. And that's what a scout's job is to do. And that's why you're hearing a lot of the negative right now, more the negative than you are hearing the positive. So Mike Lombardi, who also plugged in, he was on, I believe they call it VSiN. VSiN, right?
Yeah, that's the one I've been on before.
Yes,
that's
it's
right.
a betting, sports betting website. He was on there. Yep. It's a little bit lengthy cut, but he's talking about why and he gets to a lot of things here, but CJ Stroud, stock number one, but then gets into the Texans a little bit too, because everybody assumes if CJ Stroud's there, the Texans were going to take him. Now we're thinking otherwise. Here is Mike Lombardi talking about also why the stock of CJ Stroud may be dropping.
Look, I'm not sold CJ Stroud is going number 2.
So that's a great question. I have not heard anything with regards to the Texans other than CJ Stroud. Like it's automatic, right? We
haven't heard confirmation.
We say
either.
Who's going to go 1, 2's going to go quarterback, and then we're going to figure it out after that.
Everybody just assumes that Houston's taking the quarterback. CJ Stroud's an interesting guy. When you talk to people in the league, they'll tell you CJ Stroud is not. This is not a knock. This is just a conversation. Not an easy guy to coach. Kind of, okay. You got to be really, he's very, I think the word that people use is he's very not believing in what you're saying. And so he's a little bit challenging to coach. So it's not like he comes in and embraces it. It's he's got a little bit different style to him.
Is that where it's like he thinks he knows better?
He thinks he knows a little bit better.
Okay.
He's probably hard to take to coach it. Not saying he's not a good player. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the vibe that you get from talking to people that have interviewed him is, he's not an easy guy to coach. And so what I've done is I've asked people, I said, I heard CJ Stroud's not an easy guy to coach. Yeah, and everybody echoes that back to you. So I'm not saying he's not a good player. I like CJ Stroud. Would I pick him at 2? I don't know. I certainly wouldn't pick Anthony Richardson at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop me when I get there. But I think if you have to understand, where are they? The one thing we do know about Houston is there is no information coming out of there. There's not confirmation of Stroud. There's not any confirmation of anything. And that's the point in the betting market. Because they're not saying anything, the mocks are giving them Stroud, and that's driving the line.
I love that. It's not a knock. It's not a knock on him, but he's not easy to coach.
But he's not easy to coach. He looks at you like you don't know what you're talking about. What?
It's like, well, that sounds like a knock on him that he's not easy to coach. But we'll agree, there's something going around about C.J. Stroud. We just don't know exactly what it is. But you got 2 different insiders that played audio for you, and we can just kind of read the tea leaves. There's something if his draft stock's not rising, something basically is dropping his draft stock.
Yeah, something's not
no
right.
one is giving good reports on C.J. Stroud. It just isn't happening. And every other quarterback in the draft is getting them. And they'll talk about their faults and everything else. But C.J. Stroud, they're not saying anything.
So they're trying to throw us off the scent? Is it, is it misinformation because they want C.J. Stroud? Or is it the reality that, we've done the deep dive and we've done the evaluation and he ain't it. He's not deserving of being the top guy. I don't know which one it is because this is the silly season.
But it seems like even if it was like he wasn't the top guy, you'd see guys with picks 5, 6, 7, 8 that would be like, oh, man, it would be great if C.J. Stroud could get here and trying to – it still seems like somebody would be on his side.
I'm with you.
And I don't know why Ryan Day hasn't come out at this point and been like –
very good point.
Hey, man, Ohio State's the best, and we have good – but Ryan Day hasn't even said anything.
That is a great point. The Ryan Day thing is valid because that's his stock, too.
Yes.
His stock is tied to his Stroud stock.
Yeah.
So actually, you know what? I'm going to look up and see if we can find anything that Ryan Day said.
Exactly.
But it definitely has not. It has not been grabbed by the NFL publications at all.
I mean, we know Sark went on a media circuit this week, and he's been doing everything. Where's Ryan Day? I'm sure they got a spring game coming up.
That's a great point.
He should mention C.J. Stroud at some point in this.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud needs some advocates right now because that stock is dropping. Perception has become reality. There's a couple other cuts. So, Patrick, can you get the cuts of Nick Caserio ready? Because this is something we got to address, guys, because I'm not really sure if – now, there's – I don't know, in Houston, maybe there's some disappointment. Of course, you have D'Amico Ryans there now as the head coach. And maybe there's some disappointment in the way things have been handled from the front office side from Nick Caserio. Guys, there are multiple reports now, all right? and one is from John McClain.
Guy.
And John McClain is pretty damn reliable. We all you know John McClain really well. He's a Hall of Fame writer, great writer. He was on 610 in Houston, and he said, quote, I had someone tell me at the NFL Combine that Caserio is going to return to New England after the draft. Mike Lombardi also said recently on a podcast that, and this was on the GM Shuffle podcast, quote, there's a longer game to be played in Houston. I think there will be some organizational changes in Houston after the draft. I'm not saying people will be fired, but organizationally things will be shifted. Before the Combine or around the Combine, shout out to John Crumpler, or at John H. Crumpler. If you're a Texans fan, he's worth a follow. He does a really good job following the Texans. He had these clips of Nick Caserio around the Combine. No, sorry, take it back. It wasn't around the Combine. It was actually when they were getting ready to hire the head coach, DeMeco Ryans. Take that back. It was around when they hired DeMeco Ryans, around that time. And I think it was right before they were getting ready to hire DeMeco. They were still doing interviews with coaches, but zeroing in on DeMeco Ryans, right? So they hadn't hired a coach yet, but he was being asked about how things would lay out and how the organization would adapt to whoever the new head coach was. We had a couple of cuts here, but just listen to Nick Caserio and listen to how he answers the questions about what the new organizational layout could be if a new head coach comes in and maybe wants to usurp some of his control.
If ultimately the best thing for the organization is for me not to be in that position, then, I have to respect that and acknowledge that. And, I'm certainly not above and beyond anything else. So what I've tried to do is just be consistent on a year-to-year basis, try to do what I believe is in the best interest of our team on a year. And again, like I said a little bit earlier, if whomever we hire or whomever we decide upon doesn't feel that, my role or the position that I'm in is appropriate for what we want to do moving forward, I understand that, and I can accept that. All I can do is provide counsel, provide the resources, and provide the direction and guidance to ownership to what I feel is best.
A lot of people that believe that Nick Caserio botched it. They botched the tankathon, and now this is also being botched because if Bryce Young is the guy, and you're not going to get your guy. So, and if that's the case, somebody's got to pay the price for this ineptitude and dysfunction. And it may be him not being fired, but just them, moving things around and maybe shifting some of the responsibility around, demoting him.
I will put in some context of this, though, because I feel it's getting somewhat taken out of context. This was around the time that Sean Payton's name was still being thrown around Houston.
Yes.
And so at the time, it was assumed that this meant, well, if they hire Sean Payton, I'm clearly out.
Yes,
right. So
it
was around that time, too, so that there is something to be said that this may just be a red herring and that it was about Sean Payton when he said this, but it could also be that he botched it, and either way, they were ready to move on from him.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And my point would be that's his attitude toward the organization kind of turning against him. And my point would be now I think the organization is possible they are turning against him.
Yeah, he may have already made phone calls when they were talking about hiring Sean Payton.
Especially now that you're hearing John McClain and Mike Lombardi throw out this kind of stuff. They're like, man, who messed up the tankathon?
Exactly.
Well, you should have fired Lovey 3 games before the last game, and he shouldn't even been there in that position.
And who didn't get us the number 1 pick when we got the trade and Carolina traded ahead of us.
Exactly. And
that's 0-2.
And we know now Albert Breer, based on this report, they were trying to get that number 1 overall pick, and they botched the trade too.
Yep.
That's 3 strikes. You're out.
Yeah.
Could be.
Could have gotten the Brandon Cooks trade done before the trade deadline and didn't get that done either.
Yes.
It's a lot. Starting to add up, ain't it?
A lot.
Starting to add up.
Could have drafted Sauce Gardner.
There you go. There you go.
Patrick,
never let it go.
He's starting. So you got a list. You got a list back there, Patrick? Huh?
Just in my brain.
All right. What you got coming up for the people at Hard Knock Life?
We got the voice of the Texas Rangers, Jared Sadler, coming on right now to talk to us about the Rangers. They made a move today. They made 2 moves, one for the DL and one coming off the DL.
All right, we got baseball coming up, talking hardball with my man Hardball Rangers. Jared Sadler coming up on the other side right here on Hard Knock Life, Hard Knock Life, right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. We know Austin is a beautiful city, a magnificent city, thanks in no small part to the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482. They've been helping shape this great city since 1935. That's a long time. And you see the labors of their love all over this great city and iconic landmarks like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. And as the city continues to grow and thrive, so does Ironworkers Local Union 482. They don't go to the office, folks. They build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local Union 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. Ironworkers Local Union 482 are hiring 3,000 people. You heard me right. 3,000 people right now for a huge project. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of this great city. Maximize your potential and be your best self today by applying at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org.
Welcome back to the midweek movie theme edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's your boy Hardball Harge here. You can follow me on Twitter at Hardball Harge. You can follow my man Rob Babers at Rob Babers. And, of course, you can follow the man behind the glass at It's Patrick Davis. We love it when you're a part of the show. Hit us up on the Specs text line 512-337-3776. And joining us right now on the Vaquero Cafe and Cantina hotline, you hear his voice right here on the Horn and 101.9 FM and AM 1260. He is the radio play-by-play broadcaster for the 7-4 AL West leading Texas Rangers. He is Jared Sadler. You can follow him at Jared Sadler on Twitter. Jared, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's up, fellas? It's great hearing you say the first place Texas Rangers. We haven't been able to really say that for a long time.
I know that's right. That's why I wanted to make sure that I put that in your introduction. It's been tough. As you said, last year the Rangers finished 68-94, 38 games back. And you sit there and you're like, man, they spent a lot of money on that middle infield last year trying to provide some offense. This year they decided to spend some money on the pitching staff with DeGrom and Uvalde, and Haney came out the other day and tied a major league record for striking out 9 straight batters. I mean, that's been amazing. So what are your first impressions of this year's Texas Rangers?
Well, just that I hate to say they're a real team. They've been a real team, but they are a team that legitimately is playing at a level where you could envision them competing for a playoff spot. You know, it's one thing to look at the roster and say, yeah, I think this team's capable of doing that. And, you know, you go to spring training, it's tough to really know what to make of all that. But then now you see them playing meaningful games. And, you know, it looks like a group that can compete at a high level. Now, you know, we're 11 games in, and baseball's got an incredibly lengthy season, and so, you know, you don't make a playoff spot after 11 games. But for an organization that has just been dying for competitive baseball, they're getting that. And, you know, 2019, the Rangers hung around until mid to late July before they started a little bit of a swoon to, you know, play themselves out of contention. But I don't think anyone really looked at that team and thought, yeah, I can see a playoff team here. It was more like, holy cow, how the heck are they, you know, patching this together and staying in it? So this just looks like a ball club that's playing a brand of baseball that we haven't seen here in a Rangers uniform in a while. And you mentioned the pitching. I mean, it's just, I don't know that this organization has ever had a rotation as talented and as deep as the rotation that they've put together for the season.
And that's kind of where I want to piggyback on, Jared. You had a tweet, and I'm not going to spoil the tweets. I know you can just kind of give us the stats right now about the where the Rangers rank in terms of starting pitching, strikeouts per 9 innings. Can you give the folks that stat and give them a little perspective on how stellar that starting pitching staff has been?
Yeah, well, you know, obviously you don't want to walk guys, and the Rangers at times, you know, as a whole staff, you know, they've struggled with that. And while strikeouts are not the only thing that matters, it has played out in recent years where staffs that strike more guys out are typically able to achieve success at a high level at a more sustainable rate. And the reason why is you take out the variable of a ball put in play, and that it stands to reason that will be even more important this year now that teams are not able to as creatively position themselves along the infield. So the batting average on balls in play has been up and will likely be up throughout the course of this season compared to previous years. Well, unfortunately for the Rangers, they just haven't had guys who could strike hitters out in their rotation in recent years. As a matter of fact, if you go back the last 9 years and you combine the numbers, and that includes 2 playoff years, mind you, the Rangers ranked dead last in Major League Baseball in their rotation strikeout rate. And this year, so far, they're at the very top. And again, I know it's 1/16 of the way through the season and a lot can change, but I don't think there's any reason to believe that as long as this staff can stay relatively healthy, they won't be somewhere in the top 5, definitely top 10. And if this staff stays really healthy, I don't know why this staff couldn't be the the kings in the big leagues in terms of their ability to strike guys out. You just look at the names, the track record, what they bring to the table. So, if you're looking for numbers that project over the course of the season from this 11-game sample size, I'd say strikeout rate for rotation is one that tends to bode well if you want to take a sample of this size and look at the greater sample of an entire year.
And when you mention that, we're talking to Jared Sadler. You can follow him at Jared Sadler on Twitter. When you mention those numbers and you start looking at that pitching staff and what's going on, you also have to look at the fact, too, you have a bunch of guys out there that are playing at a very high level of defense. Even though you have a young Josh Young playing third base, unfortunately, we had the Corey Seager injury that looks like he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks. But you start looking at this team, and when they do put the ball in play, you're making plays on the infield for sure. You got good outfield that can go out there and track. You're getting Leotis Tavares back today. He's going to be activated. By the way, I saw him hit the grand slam. I was actually at the game yesterday in Round Rock because they played at noon yesterday, and he looked good. He looked like he was ready to be back in the big league. So I'm excited for him. But that goes back to what you're saying. If you don't have a lot of guys that are going to strike people out, you want to be able to pick it and be able to catch it across the field.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I think with Leote, his ticket to being an everyday player is patrolling center field at a high level. And, I think at one point throughout his, career arc, there's been thoughts that, he can be a top-of-the-order guy. Maybe he still can be. He's just 23 years old. That can obviously materialize. But I think, the Rangers would be pretty fired up if he was just a league average offensive player who ran the bases well but gave you plus defense in center field. And so, hopefully he adds to that. It allows Adolis Garcia to move over to right. Adolis, who has actually uncharacteristically so gotten off to a wacky start defensively, is a Gold Glove caliber outfielder and can do that in center, but it's taxing playing center field every day. And I think just for, his own health, over the course of the marathon season, they'd love to put him in right to preserve the lower half. And so you got Leote can play center. The guy who's really impressed me, and you mentioned Josh Young, and he's absolutely been impressive, but watching Marcus Semien play second has been a lot of fun. Marcus was a Gold Glove finalist last year. He won a Gold Glove 2 years ago. He got off to a rough start defensively last season, and then really the last 4 months was really sharp there. But I think it was fair to wonder, hey, what was it going to look like for Marcus without the shift? And, he's one of these guys who the lack of a shift has allowed him to be an athlete. And not that it's necessarily easier, because I think it's easier when you've got 3 infielders on the right side when the ball's hit that direction. But I think when you look at individual performance, it forces you to be more engaged. It allows you to stay loose because you are having to move more, not at such a rate where it's taxing, but to where it's refreshing almost. And, he's commented on that. He said that, not having 3 infielders on one side has almost forced him to step his game up. And, I think it's been a lot of fun to watch him play up the middle defensively at second.
Yeah, that's a beautiful crew up the middle of the field. I remember when we were talking in spring training, I was sitting there watching them during warm-ups and just watching them get their early work in. And I'm like, these guys, both of them, talking about Seager as well, both of these guys can be Gold Glove middle infielders. And I know that that's something that when the Rangers signed both of these guys, that was something not only for their offense, but they were also looking at their defense as well. So it's an exciting time in Arlington. As you said, 1/16 of the season. But when you start looking at the team and how they're coming together, I think that's a big, big move. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the new additions on the bench. When you talk about a Bruce Bochy, you talk about Mike Maddox coming in and working with these guys, both being calming voices. I think this has been very, very impressive start for the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, and I want to just add, if I can expand on the bench, I think it's, yes, Bruce Bochy, absolutely big impact. Tough to quantify, but it's real. Mike Maddox, again, tough to know what sort of an impact he's having on this pitching staff, but I can assure you that there is an impact. It is a positive one. But I also want to go to just the bench in terms of players. You look at teams that compete for a playoff spot. I mean, heck, look at the Astros the last several years. These are teams that the guys who are not in their A lineup, guys who either are part of platoons or guys who are definitely not everyday players or even semi-regular players. A lot of times they're guys who would start on maybe 10 teams in the league. They're guys who, when they're in the lineup, they're probably not going to, produce at the level of the guys who are playing over them, but they're not just total black holes in the lineup. They're not automatic outs. They're not liabilities. And you look at the Rangers bench, Josh Smith, who now is going to be an everyday player, Ezekiel Duran, you got Bubba Thompson, Travis Jankowski. These are all guys who they bring something legitimate to the table. And I think the depth that this organization has created, not just at the big league level, but then through the minor leagues, has been an incredibly important part of their ability to take a step forward. And then you got a guy like Bruce Bochy who's got an opportunity to now play with that depth, something that he did so well when he was with San Francisco. And again, prior to that, in San Diego, you allow him more toys to play with, and you're going to see the type of impact that he can have as a manager within a game on a day-to-day basis.
Hey, before we let you go, I want you, and that was great stuff right there about the bench and the players that are there to provide the depth. And as you said, Josh Smith is now going to end up being the everyday shortstop. Are they going to play him at short, or are they going to move Semien over to short?
Yeah, no, they'll play Josh at short. Marcus last year made it pretty clear that he much preferred to just play a position. You know, and when Corey got days off, they would move him to short early in the year, and he didn't really like that. He wants to play a position. He wants to get as much work and focus in on that one position. So I think you'll see Josh Smith there. You'll see Ezekiel Duran there. It's not to say in a pinch you might not see Marcus there. I would just say he's not the first or second option. But whenever you lose a guy like Corey Seager, the situation is very fluid. And, you might see some things you didn't plan on seeing. But I think the primary plan is for Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran to share the shortstop responsibility.
I love it. I love it. Before we let you go, I want you to talk a little bit about your children's charity, the Sandlots Children's Charity. Give us a little bit of information and tell people where to go.
Oh, it's really kind of you. Thank you so much. The Sandlot Children's Charity, we raise money for kids with physical and intellectual disabilities so that they have opportunities to get involved in athletic programming, which helps them address a major need of health and wellness, but also will allow them to have some of the same experiences that, we all had playing sports growing up, making friends, gaining skills, building confidence, developing relationships, leadership skills, all that stuff, which is incredibly important for these kids to, have the best opportunity to have the best life on a daily basis. And, just because they have what we characterize as disabilities doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to do great things and be, incredible members of their communities. And, being around these kids, it's tough not to have a good day. And it's been a tremendous blessing to learn and integrate in, these various communities with these amazing kids. And it's been a lot of fun to have so many people in the community here in DFW and beyond support the charity and help us grow. The website is thesandlot.org. A lot of our information is there. I tweet out plenty of stuff as well. Sandlot.org, and people can just reach out to me on Twitter at Jared Sandler if they have any questions about getting involved or how they can contribute.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for taking the time, and make sure that everybody goes and follow him. And he'll be on the air today talking a little bit of baseball. Y'all still playing the Royals, right?
So, Royals today, tonight, off tomorrow, and then we take on the Astros in Houston this weekend. Rod, do I remember this, Rod? Are you an Astros fan?
Yes, brother, I am. I don't want to bring it up, man. I don't want to disrespect you like that, so I don't want to bring it up. That's all.
Yeah, Rod, you know you got a special place in my heart. I always love chatting with you. You got this blemish, and I don't know how to overcome. I can't reconcile it in my head.
I feel the same way about my Aggie friends, so it's all good. It's all good.
I married an Aggie, and I agree with you. I can't get behind that school at all.
There he is, man.
Oh, thanks,
Jared. We appreciate you, and we'll definitely have you on again. And hopefully it's continuing where I can bring you on and say the AL West leading Texas Rangers.
Right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, fellas. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
I appreciate you, my man.
That's good stuff.
That
Married
is
an
good
Aggie.
stuff.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
I will say the Aggie got. Everybody knows this. Aggie's got some good-looking women.
Oh,
Now.
for sure.
Yeah, we talk a lot of trash on the Aggies,
But it's mostly towards the guys.
Yeah, this is true. That is very true. Yeah, the Yale leaders.
The Yale leaders. That's right.
All right, good stuff there from Jared Sandler for Hard Knock Life. We come back. We'll get into this Michael Jordan story. Man, how much are Jordans worth? Apparently, a whole hell of a lot of straight cash, homie. We'll discuss that on the other side for Off the Record right here on Ball Don't Lie. Wonderful down the horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Time to get into off the record here. And this is MJ related off the record story. I'm talking about the GOAT, Michael Jordan. So how about this, gentlemen? A pair of Jordans, and Hard, you know about the story because you sent it to me a couple days ago. A pair of Jordans worn by Michael Jordan during his final championship run with the Chicago Bulls sold at auction for $2.2 million. That's right. A pair of shoes that MJ wore during his final championship run with the Bulls sold for $2.2 million, surpassing the record for the most valuable sneakers ever sold at an auction house at Sotheby's auction on Tuesday. The Air Jordan 13s, which Jordan wore in Game 2.
Game 2.
It wasn't even the deciding game.
It wasn't even the flu game.
It wasn't what Game 2?
No.
Okay.
Got no champagne on.
Got no champagne.
Of the 98 NBA Finals against the Jazz, it sold for the highest publicly recorded price for a pair of sneakers. And the historic sneakers were worn during the most recognizable season of Jordan's storied career, which helped secure his legacy as the GOAT. Is what it says here. But yeah, $2.2 million, guys. I never owned a pair of Jordans until I got to the NFL. And I had a Nike, like a merchandising deal with Nike. Yep. And that's when I had my first pair of Jordans. But until then, I never could afford J's. And honestly, when I was growing up in the hood, you didn't really want J's. You didn't want J's, you didn't want a starter. You thought you did. But then they brought a whole lot of unwanted attention. And when you start hearing about people getting jacked for their J's in the hood and jacked for starter jackets, yeah, you thought about that a little bit more. Yeah, have second thoughts about the start. Is it worth to get the J's to look that cool for a day until I gotta either fight for my J's or I gotta run to keep my J's?
That is a good point.
Oh, you gonna fight or run? And most of the time you running.
I wonder if you're gonna come up out of them shoes, bro. You're gonna be running so fast. You can't get with me, dog.
So when did you get your first J's?
You don't want to know.
Oh, you hit that league early though.
No, I had it in middle school.
You had J's in middle school?
I had J's in middle school.
I don't even know what you was doing to get J's in middle school.
Hey, man.
Did your mama know you had J's in middle school? I was about to say, yeah. No. I know mama ain't buying no J's in middle school.
No, I had J's because
that's crazy.
And it's funny because I didn't get the red and black the red and white and black.
I remember those.
I didn't get those. I had the black and blue ones. My middle school basketball team was red. I bought the blue ones.
Did you wear them?
I wore them regular. I was like, they ain't even the right color, but I'm going to wear them. That's before I even knew. You know what I'm saying? You didn't know that Michael was going to be that. You knew he was going to be good. You knew he had a shoe, and they were fly. Wow. But let's not forget, Michael Jordan broke his foot in those shoes. Let's not forget that in the very beginning. Everybody wants to think about, these shoes are so great. Mike broke his foot in them shoes.
That is true. That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
I didn't think about that, but you're right. You saw the movie.
I did.
You saw the movie.
I did.
Give without spoilers because you're not B&E. But for some reason,
9 out of 10.
E. Hogan loves to spoil stuff for people talking about shows.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Because nobody's perfect.
You know what? That does track because I would say at South by Southwest, they were talking about it, and they said it was getting like standing ovations from people.
It was outstanding. Like a movie that I would go back to the theaters to watch again because there might have been something that I missed through that time.
And you know why I believe that too? Because I think Ben Affleck is behind the scenes on it, not only starring in it. And when Ben Affleck does something behind the scenes, it's usually pretty damn good.
It was outstanding.
As an actor, you can question whether he's a great actor or not, but when he gets into being a producer or a director in something or writing something,
he was great as Phil Knight.
It usually is pretty damn good.
You believed he was Phil Knight.
Yeah.
From the stories from the past where you hear stories about how Phil Knight used to be and kind of quirky and all that stuff. Yeah. Spot on.
Well, eccentric. He's got money.
Eccentric. That's right.
When you're broke, you're quirky. Yeah. When you got money, you're eccentric.
Eccentric.
Yeah.
I want to be eccentric.
We all do. we all want to be eccentric.
We want to
right
be
now,
eccentric.
we're quirky. We're weird.
Yeah.
That's because we're broke.
Yeah.
When you got money, you're eccentric. Elon Musk, eccentric.
Eccentric.
There you go. All right, we come back. We'll get into the play-in, review the Lakers and Hawks victories. Also, we'll preview OKC and New Orleans, Chicago versus Toronto. Coming up next right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Midweek movie music edition of Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. That's my man Patrick. Takes songs from a soundtrack, plays those songs for us, and then based on the selections that are played, Harj and I are supposed to gather clues and as to what that lead us to what the featured film of midweek movie music is. And today it is American Psycho. I didn't get it. Actually, I did get it, but after several clues and hints.
But you got it, though.
We
still never lost. You know what I'm
We're going to take the dub.
We're going to take the dub.
It is a tricky one.
It is a tricky one because these songs, it's such an eclectic mix.
It is, and they're so important to the movie.
They are.
But you don't think about it that way because all the songs, you're like, oh, if I hear these songs, I'd be like, oh, it's an 80s.
Yeah, and I kept thinking comedy, and it is a dark, very dark, sadistic, sick comedy, but it is comedic in a lot of the dark, sinister scenes of American Psycho, which Harj has never seen, by the way.
Nope.
Yeah, you need to check it out. It's not bad.
Nope.
I'm telling you, Christian Bale makes it worth it. Christian Bale is like one of the great actors of our time. He makes it worth it. The plot and everything, it's strange, it's weird, it's eccentric. You'd appreciate that. Yeah. But he is spectacular in it.
All right.
Like he is. He's amazing in it. Like he basically draws you in and you don't even really have to worry about anything else that happens in it.
Okay.
Or you could watch, there's a parody of it that's just like a scene that's Huey Lewis as Christian Bale and Weird Al as the guy he kills.
Where's this at?
It's just on YouTube. It's just a weird thing because it's basically about Huey Lewis and him being mad because he got known for that movie so much. He's like, I've done all this stuff. And then like this super violent movie is this thing that I'm known for now. People are like, oh yeah, you're the guy from American Psycho. He's like, no.
No, I guess you're right. Because Huey Lewis, when you played the initial, I think that was like the second or third. No, that was the 4 o'clock hint. That was the third hint. Yeah. And he is known for being in kind of feel good, upbeat comedies from the 80s. Yeah. And that's why I threw before a loop, but ended up getting it. American Psycho. Great job. And a great soundtrack, by the way. Actually, it's a really good soundtrack, too. My man Patrick always knocking it out of the park. You can be a part of the show. Specs text line 512-337-3776. We'll get into the play-in games. We'll review the Lakers win and the Hawks win, and then we'll preview Oklahoma City versus New Orleans and Chicago versus Toronto. We'll preview both of those matchups coming up. And in Rod's rant of the day, we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. I'm going to bump whatever I was going to do, and we'll talk about the transfer portal. It giveth and it taketh away, and already it's starting to taketh away from Texas football team right now during the spring. So we'll get into the latest from the Texas transfer portal. We got more than a couple of names that have already been reported to have placed their name in the transfer portal from Texas football. So we'll do that coming up next segment. All right, let's start, gentlemen, with the win for the Lakers over Minnesota. It was like I said, the Lakers love drama. They're like TNT. They love drama. It had me, who picked the Lakers, had me a little anxious as well down the stretch. I don't know if it was more of a collapse and a meltdown by Minnesota or clutch scoring and clutch play by the Lakers. Either way, Lakers found a way to get the win, 108-102 in overtime. To me, this is the stat that stands out the most, that Minnesota, they had 95 points with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So you got the rest of the fourth quarter and overtime, and they had 95 points. They scored 7 points the rest of the game. The rest of the fourth quarter and overtime. You're talking about 11 turnovers and 5 field goals and 16 points total in the fourth quarter and overtime. That is where the game was lost. Or won, if you want to say from the Lakers standpoint. I guess you got to get stops, and they did get some crucial stops late in the game.
Well, you mean those bricks that they were throwing up at the end of the game? Like them forced shots. So, you can't say that they picked it up defensively, but they choked this game away. They had opportunities to win this game because the Lakers, think about it. LeBron and Anthony Davis, between the two of them, they scored 54 points. Mm-hmm. Austin Reeves had 12. There was nothing from Vanderbilt. There was nothing from D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, he was off.
And you look at what Karl Anthony Towns and what he was able to do. Patrick brought it up, the foul trouble. Kyle Anderson didn't do anything. It was just one of those, and Anthony Edwards was the missing piece. If he gets 12 points, they win that game. If he just gets 12, he was 0 of 9 from three-point land, 3 of 17 for the game. And he was the one that I told everybody, make sure you get over there. If you haven't seen the Minnesota Timberwolves play.
You made sure to put it in to tell people that right before we got out there. You're like, hey, make sure y'all watch Anthony Edwards. He's going to show out. And I was like, okay, that'll be great. And usually he does. He is. But that was a really bad game. All 3 of his field goals were layups too, by the way.
Yes.
And they were all, I think 2 of them were overtime. 1 was a fast break. So, yeah, he had one of his worst performances as a pro. That was really bad for him.
So if they have Rudy Gobert in there, some of those rebounds that the Lakers were getting.
McDaniels on defense.
Yes, if they would have had those guys, and the Lakers still just scraped by to get that dub. But everybody thinks that this was the turning point that the Lakers needed. They wrote on the board, when we were 2-10, we had 3% chance, less than 3%. I'm like, come on, dog. It's the NBA. Everybody goes on runs. You figure it out. Guys deal with injuries. Different things happen throughout the year. You made it into the playoffs, and now your reward is the Memphis Grizzlies. Good luck with that.
Get your mind right.
Yeah, get your mind right.
That's a young, hungry team right
exactly.
there. Another stat that's...
We good in the West. Yeah. Ain't that what Josh said? We good in the West.
Another stat that stood out, gentlemen, was, Cat, Big Cat. He was great early on. I mean, how about this? He had 24 points with 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter. I'm thinking to myself, man, Cat is being a force. It was actually trending toward being one of his best games since he came back from the injury.
Yes.
He's only scored 30-plus points once since coming back from the injury, and he was well on his way to scoring 30-plus points. Guys, that 24 points, that would be all the points he scored in the game. He only attempted 2 more shots the rest of the game. Yeah. You had 2 more periods of play. You had a fourth quarter and overtime and 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter. He only took 2 shots, guys, missed them both, and never got to the free throw line. The foul trouble that he got in really told the story for the Minnesota Timberwolves, because you look at that earlier stat I gave you about the 16 total points they scored in the fourth quarter and overtime, 11 turnovers on 5 field goals. Cat, basically, in the last 19.5 minutes of the game, he was a non-factor. He was missing, basically.
Yeah.
Casper the Friendly Ghost. Go.
And he was sitting on that sideline with his hands up talking about, I didn't foul him. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You were making silly fouls, and you didn't control yourself. Patrick brought it up earlier. LeBron was playing with 5, and he wouldn't foul. He would stay away from it when normally he's being a physical brute trying to get into the lane, or you coming into the lane, he'll try to slap it off the backboard. He didn't even put himself in that situation. So Karl Anthony Towns, they get another shot at this stuff, but you got to be smarter. You have to be smarter if this is your opportunity. And let's not forget, wasn't it last year that Patrick Beverley jumped up on the scorer's table because they won a playoff
like
game?
He won the NCAA tournament.
Hey, he might do it again tonight.
That's right. He's with Chicago.
Oh, that's right.
He's with Chicago, and he's from Chicago, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
right?
he is. I mean, he's done well. Like, the team's better with him on it.
Yeah.
But I'm not. But you can't be jumping up.
And that's why I sit here and I look at what Minnesota had the opportunity, and then the report comes out that it was not the player's decision. It was not the coach's decision. It was the front office decision to keep Gobert out of the game. The team wanted him to play.
Yeah. No, well,
the front office said no.
Yeah, they said we have to put a hard line down because y'all are getting out of control. And
that's fair.
Look, we can suspend Jaden McDaniels too. We can suspend him all day long. He ain't playing.
Yeah,
so the suspension don't really matter.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not a bad thing because they're better without Rudy Gobert than they are with him. Like, you're going to see Rudy Gobert go up against Oklahoma City and the Pelicans are playing tonight.
Yep.
Those are young, fast teams.
Yeah.
And you're about to put Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert on the court at the same time.
Twin Towers kind of thing.
And you're going to try and Twin Towers this team that is just going to run you down.
Slow it down.
And just continue. And, like, cool, if you want to compete 2s versus 3s and watch these guys just run down on you the whole time, it's going to be a problem. But, I don't. That trade overall was not a great trade. And then because of that, they're depleted of other places and other players they need to have on this team. But, yeah, I think Jay McDaniels being out is probably one of the bigger things because they just couldn't stop the Lakers in some key points. They were able to LeBron was able to draw defense around and then find the guys who were open.
Yeah, Dennis Schroeder stepped up big for him, 21 points off the bench. And, yeah, I mean, you're right, Patrick. They literally had – I mean, they had this game. They had the game.
They should have won that game.
Yeah, some bad decision making by Karl Anthony Towns as their star down the stretch, which made him unavailable because of the foul trouble. They just could not manufacture offense. Anthony Edwards, the other star, you talked about Harge. He came up short too. So they were right there. But clutch time is what the playoffs are all about, and that's definitely where the Lakers won this game and showed up, was in clutch time.
I will say it's going to be interesting going forward with the Lakers to see if they try and play this a little bit faster lineup. Because they went, I mean, it's not small because it's still got Anthony Davis, and Vanderbilt's not a small guy. Rui Hachimura is not a small guy, but it is a small lineup. And though you're not playing Mo Bamba, you're not playing Tristan Thompson, you're not playing any of your centers. You're basically playing Anthony Davis at the 5, and if he comes out, you're not playing anybody else. It's Vanderbilt or Hachimura in there. You're not really playing a lot of bigs, and you're kind of just trying to go faster and get some three-pointers up. I mean, they shot a ton of threes in that game. They didn't hit a lot.
No.
They shot a bunch.
He was 0 of 9.
So it'll be interesting to see as they go up against Memphis, a team with Steven Adams out. Do they try to play big ball and stick some of those guys in the paint a little bit more, or do they try and run with Memphis? Because it's going to be, I mean, defensively, you probably don't want to stick the big guys out there because Memphis will run up and down the court on you. But offensively, you may need to do it.
Well, the only thing is, too, Steven Adams is not going to be in the playoffs. He's out. But here's the thing. Yesterday, the Lakers had 54 points in the paint to 36 for Minnesota. 54 points in the paint. That's ridiculous.
And then add to that the free throw line.
Yes.
They were excellent. They were 22 of 24 overall from the free throw line. The Lakers were. That's nearly 92%. They shoot 77% on the season. They were 13 of 13 in the third and fourth quarter. That also doesn't happen a lot with the Lakers, and they showed up. So in addition to, you talked about the points in the paint disparity, they were getting physical and getting to the free throw line. That was a priority for them too. So we'll see. Right now the Lakers, they're riding high. They're still one of the hotter teams technically in the playoffs now officially. But Memphis, man, that is going to be a hard out for the Lakers. I think it'll end up going 6 or 7 though.
That's what I said. I mean, there's if you get to that point, you need to finish him. Finish LeBron.
Yeah, don't let LeBron get to 7.
Exactly.
Don't let LeBron get to 7.
Yep.
Also, the Hawks won last night as well. Gentlemen, 116-105. But, I mean, not much to discuss. This was, I mean, the score kind of indicates that it was a closer game, but if you watched it, you understood, man, the Hawks just put a butt whipping, Old Testament style butt whipping on the Miami Heat. I picked the Miami Heat, so I was way off on this one.
You and everybody else, bro. You ain't alone. You are not alone.
Yeah, the glaring stat is the rebounding stat, which probably tells a whole nother story about the effort overall by Miami Heat. But the Atlanta out-rebounded Miami 63-39.
Ridiculous.
22-6 on the offensive boards. That, in a nutshell, really kind of told the story.
And also, let's go back to it. They scored 64 points in the paint.
Also big.
Of their 116. 64 points.
That's crazy.
And it goes back to your point about the rebounding. That's how it was happening. Second chance buckets and actually scoring instead of getting a rebound and getting it back out. Nope. They were in there hustling and getting those putbacks. And that seems to be the difference as well.
And, I mean, the Heat they were a top 5 defensive rebounding team, so they weren't a bad defensive rebounding team going into this matchup. But, man, my Atlanta wanted it more.
No doubt. That's all you. That's as simple as you can put it.
It looked like that anyway.
For sure.
Trae Young, 25 points. DeJounte Murray came up with 18. Patrick said he needed 20.
He was close.
He's right there.
He was close.
He needed 20. But Clint Capella, I don't know if anybody expected him to dominate the boards. He had 21 of them.
21 rebounds, which is the next closest to him for the Miami Heat. 9 rebounds by Adebayo.
Oh,
yes, he had 9.
Honestly, the most surprising stat actually was not even a rebounding stat. It was Kyle Lowry.
He was in the house.
33 points from Kyle Lowry. It was the highest scoring game in 2 years with Miami for Kyle Lowry.
Which is why they lost, because he was their leading scorer. Think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
he is not that dude anymore.
That's fair.
Like what you just said. You just went through the numbers about it was the highest he has scored in 2 seasons.
Man,
but he was the only one who seemed like he wanted to be there.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel.
The rest of the team seemed like they were the guys that were like, man, we're really like a 4 seed, but we're the 7. But just injuries, we're the 4. And you're like, no, man, you're a 7 seed.
And you're playing in this game.
You were acting like you were so much better than them.
It's time to fight for your life.
And you got to remember, like, you don't have the players.
Fight for her.
For whatever reason, you thought you were a 4 seed. You're not.
Right.
Yeah, they still like that. They still, because remember we brought this up yesterday that both of those teams had been in the conference finals in the last 2 years, and they almost felt like this was beneath them. Like, no, man, we're too good to be this play. And it's like, no, man, you better look up. It's time. It's a fight.
And
you're getting beat.
And Quinn Snyder had a really good game plan, which was basically they think we're going to go to Trae Young a lot. So we're just going to let Trae Young facilitate some, and we're going to kind of use him as a decoy for a lot of the game and not run the offense through Trae Young as much. So it's going to throw them off because their entire defensive plan was to overhelp on Trae Young. And so when everybody else starts trying to score, they don't have any options because now they're not helping out on anybody else. And if you give up on Trae Young, then all of a sudden he's going to hit 4 threes and it's over. So you just kind of got punched in the mouth because they went away from Trae Young to start the game, and they never were able to recover into that. They made a couple runs in there, but then they just couldn't get those rebounds and stops. You play great defense for like 22 seconds, and then they just throw some at the rim, it bounces off, and they get a free dunk. Hey, come on, man.
Yeah, to Patrick's point about them, their game plan turning Trae Young somewhat into a decoy/facilitator. You had 4 Hawks reserve players: Sadiq Bey, Bogdanovich, also Okonkwo, and Jalen Johnson. They combined for 53 points off the bench.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Just those 4 guys.
And that's the part of it that goes back to what you were
saying.
Not
expect that.
They wanted it more. They looked at it. You know, most of the time when you go to Miami, you think the visiting team going to struggle a little bit because of that nightlife. Quinn Snyder told them, get to y'all's room. Get to y'all's room. Get to y'all's room. Y'all are going out tonight.
You got that Popovich.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, Chicago Bulls in action tonight. They're at the Toronto Raptors. The winner advances to face the Miami Heat. And the loser is eliminated from the postseason altogether. The Raptors won the season series, I believe, 2-1. And, really when you look at it, for me, just looking at the past matchups, it looks like that the Raptors may have a slight advantage. Just kind of looking at the past matchups. Mm-hmm. If you go look at the Raptors won the series, but that the one win, one of their wins, I should say, they won 113-104. Toronto had 11 steals and 10 blocks in that game,
which is a rarity.
And they forced 20 turnovers. That led to 21 points off of those turnovers. And in the other win, they had a 19-6 edge in offensive rebounding. So turnovers are going to be big. For some reason, when the Raptors have played them, and not some reason, the Raptors defense is opportunistic, but they've been able to force a ton of turnovers. And defensive, they've made a lot of splash plays.
Well, here's another thing, too. On the road, the Bulls are 18-23. And the Raptors at home are 27-14.
All right.
So there's that, too.
There is that.
And I heard Zay say this, and it cracked me up earlier when he was like, is Drake going to be there? That would be my deciding factor on who's going to win.
Of course Drake's going to be there.
It's a home game,
baby. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Of course Drake's going to be there. I'm looking forward to Drake being there. It's a little entertainment
Talking
sometimes.
trash to everybody on that front row.
But
this is Patrick Bev. Yeah, I was just about to say. Pat Bev about that life. He likes that.
DeMar DeRozan, remember, he's moved around a ton since then, but obviously he's got some ties with the Toronto Raptors. How about this? When he was playing against the Chicago Bulls this season, he took 9 shots in the first game that he played against when he played against the Raptors, and he committed. If you look at game 2, Zach LaVine kind of took over. He had 30 points, but DeRozan only had 9 points in that matchup too. And had, I think, and in game 3, I think he had 13 points on like 11 field goals. DeMar DeRozan just has not been great playing against his former team.
And this is something, too, for you, Rod, as a Rockets fan. This is an interview by Nick Nurse, because Nick Nurse is the head coach that is the one that the Rockets covet. They are looking at the Raptors head coach, Nick Nurse. So go ahead and fill out your scouting report on your future coach down there in H-Town.
Supposed to be a defensive guru or some sort? Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to be a weird game tonight in the fact that this Toronto team, this is kind of their last leg of the Toronto team being built this way.
Yep.
We figure Fred VanVleet's gone because he's going to want more money than they're probably going to pay him.
He'll go to Houston.
We know Pascal Siakam has been on the trade block for the last 2 years now, and so he may get traded.
Both of them going to be in the transfer portal going with that coach.
they get Jakob Poeltl. They get
that
trade.
Was actually
they trade for him. He's a really good player,
yeah.
but he again is a free agent. So you don't know what this Toronto team could look like next season. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get up for the game and if they're really going and they're like, hey man, let's go make a run, or they've all kind of just been like, hey man, my locker's already pretty clean.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's cleaned out. And the Bulls, we know they're going to have, they got to figure out some things this year, especially with Lonzo Ball. They keep figuring out that he's not getting healthy because that was kind of one of the big pieces was they needed Lonzo Ball. He played really well. It sucks that he's just not been able to stay on the court.
Yeah.
But if he's not going to be able to be a part of this team going forward, you have an aging DeMar DeRozan. Zach LaVine hasn't been able to be that guy. So both these teams could make some big moves. You want to see if they're ready to go. I will believe that Pat Beverly will get his team up for it no matter what, because if he's not, he will be yelling at everybody. But I don't know if Toronto's going to be able to get that fire under him, if Nick Nurse is going to be able to light him up. And that's what we saw happen to Miami last night. That's what we saw happen to the Lakers early last night.
No, you're right about that Miami thing. I mean, that sometimes you just get shell-shocked, and Miami looked like it. And if, the Bulls come out, and they come out with that kind of attitude and intensity, maybe they can shock the Toronto Raptors. I'll take the Raptors right now, but I'm not 100% confident in that pick. I could see Chicago making this thing really interesting. On the other game tonight, OKC at New Orleans, you'll have the winner advancing to face the Timberwolves on the road for that 8th seed. The loser is eliminated from the postseason. Pelicans took the season series 3-1. And I honestly, somebody that we should be talking about more, and I'm glad that's why the play-in, I think, is such a good experiment for the NBA. It had such a March Madness feel to it, and I think that's pretty good. Not too much March Madness, just a little bit, a little sprinkle of March Madness in the NBA postseason. A little sprinkle there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Big fan of him.
Man.
Big fan of him.
He is having a hell of a season.
Yep.
I mean,
last couple seasons, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Just not watching enough of him. I'll admit that. It's his 5th year. He's 4th in the NBA in scoring right now.
Oh, yeah.
31.4 points per game. In his 4 games versus New Orleans, he's averaging 33 points per game.
He likes them.
8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. So he might have himself a hell of a game. That was, talk about an underrated pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it was just like kind of a throw-in with the Paul George trade.
I mean, they knew they thought he'd be good, but they didn't expect him to be this good. Like, they really weren't expecting to have to make a decision about paying him a max.
Right.
And that's where they're at now. Also, Josh Giddey's on the Oklahoma City team. He is really playing like he's a really good player. Those two guys play really well together. So that's fun to watch. But on the other end, Brandon Ingram has been playing really good for the last couple of years.
Brandon Ingram.
We got to see if the CJ McCollum who we know can be shows up, or CJ McCollum, who shows up a lot of times in New Orleans, shows up. But you kind of want New Orleans to stay in this because there's hope that Zion could play at some point. I know he wants to come back. He said the other day, he's like, people don't think I want to come back. Like, no, we just don't think you work hard enough to come back.
Exactly.
There's a big difference. We know you want to, but want and work are two different things.
I don't think we're going to see him. Not how he
either.
sounded when I heard him talk.
No. I don't think we will either, but you kind of just want to hold out that hope because that changes.
Keep hope alive.
Because that changes everything in a playoff series.
Oh, yeah, but that's what the NBA wants, right? We want to see the superstars.
Yeah.
You know, we don't care if they advance. That's why we want to see Luka and Kyrie.
I mean,
we don't care if they advance.
Who doesn't want to see? Who doesn't want to see
Yeah.
Durant versus Zion in the Mr. Glass competition? If Anthony Davis shows up, everyone's gonna be like, "Hey, no one move."
Yep.
Fragile would be how I would describe that. Okay, real quick, a little nugget here too. You brought up Brandon Ingram. He missed a lot of games early on. I think he missed like 35 of their first 50-something games. In that third game versus OKC, it was like February 13th, he had 34. He dropped 34 on him, and hit like 58% for the field. He hit 60% from three-point range in that game. Yeah. He was on fire. Now, he might be recalling that in this game. So, watch Brandon Ingram. And also another stat thrown out there about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. How about this? The only player since 1999 and 2000 to average 31 points per game or more and play at least 68 games, which he has done, and not be an NBA first-team player was Allen Iverson in 05-06.
There you go.
He was third team behind Kobe and Steve Nash on the first team, D. Wade and Chauncey Billups on the second team, and Gilbert Arenas was the third team.
You're talking bad about Portland's head coach, Chauncey Billups.
No, not at all. But isn't that crazy? So I'm saying that's how good this young kid is. He's 24 or something like that. And he's not, first. I haven't looked at the
the first teams haven't come out yet.
But he's not going to be first team.
No, but he'll be second team.
He'll be second team, you think?
Yeah, I've seen on some ballots him being first team.
Oh, really?
I have.
Okay.
So there are people that are putting him up there. Basically, it's a question. Do you watch Oklahoma City? Did you watch Oklahoma City? So the Eastern Conference people ain't going to vote for him. Western Conference people will start voting for him, but Eastern Conference people didn't really watch much Oklahoma City.
Yeah, you got to have that NBA package to know Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was a good player.
And guess what Patrick has? The NBA package.
That's how you know you're like, that's a damn good player.
Yeah, he is. He's solid.
All right, we come back. We got Raj rant of the day on the other side. We'll keep up with the transfer portal. It giveth and it taketh away. Well, it's taking from the Longhorn football team right now. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about what it means. We'll give you all the names right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. We all know time is money. So do my friends at Apple Leasing, and they're going to save you both. They're going to save you time and save you money. We know the car market right now is crazy. It's a bit of a labyrinth. It can be really frustrating, and it can be really tough to navigate your way through. Apple Leasing can help you navigate your way through the car market and help you find the price you want, the payment you want on the car you want. I know it sounds like it's too good to be true. It's not. That's just Apple Leasing's philosophy. That is their business model. That's why they've been doing business here in Austin for almost 40 years. So go check them out for yourself, folks, and find out what the secret is, the secret sauce to what they got going on at Apple Leasing. They can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car you want. And all it takes is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They would even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing's simple interest, easy lease. Well, that's kind of the secret herbs and spices, if you will, about what they do. It gives them a lot more flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best, because inflation is through the roof. It's never been more expensive to buy a new car, buy a used car, buy anything for that matter, so leasing makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. So call Apple Leasing today, 512-346-9977, and let them see how much money they can save you. They get all the same discounts, all the same incentives that the dealers do, except my friends at Apple Leasing, they pass those savings on to you. So give them a call, 512-346-9977, or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie here, right here on 104.9 The Horn. Time for Rod's Rant of the Day. And I just want to get into the latest breaking news in regards to the transfer portal. These Texas spring football game is this weekend. And as a matter of fact, I'll throw it out there. We'll have your coverage right here on 104.9 The Horn. Starting up at 11 a.m., we'll have your pregame festivities. And we'll go to 12:45. And then Craig Way on the call of the spring game starting at 1 o'clock right here on 104.9 The Horn this Saturday. But we know that the transfer portal, it giveth and it taketh away. Well, it's already starting to take away from the Texas football team. We got 3 names that are in it already, and I'm sure that there are going to be more. But right now, you do have the first was Brennan Thompson, the wide receiver. That was reported earlier today. And that was reported. I think Rivals was the first one that I saw it, but multiple sources have also reported that Brennan Thompson, he is going to enter the transfer portal. Remember, he had, I think, 1 reception this year for 32 yards. I remember that reception too. They ran. It was
Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it was a 2 tailback set too, and they kind of tossed like a wide receiver screen to him. Man, he took off, and you did get to see the burners from my man Brennan Thompson. But remember, he's a 2-sport athlete, track and football. Came to Texas obviously as a 2-sport athlete, and I imagine whatever school he decides to go to, that's going to be a huge factor. I mean, it's a guy that ran personal best of 10.22 in 100 meters and a 20.7 in the 200. Did you run track, Harge? Did you run track?
In middle school, not in high school, because I was playing baseball.
Yeah, you played everything. Yeah. But I ran track. He can run.
They wanted me to run during that time, and I was like, no. I just run bases.
Nah, you can go. Yeah. You can make a whole lot more guaranteed money running them bases too. Yeah. So Brennan Thompson, and you like Brennan Thompson, so did I. He did fit the Sark mold of wide receiver too. A speed demon who was a little undersized. I think he was around 165, but he was a guy that could go, and he's moving on to find a new path to play. That's what all these guys are looking for, a path to play. And when they don't see that path to play at Texas, that just means, honestly, and I hate to say it, it's a good thing for Texas, because that would mean that this is a guy that's got a lot of talent, and he doesn't right now see a way for him to get on the field because that wide receiver room is so deep. So a lot of the times when you're upgrading the roster like Sark is right now, this is a good thing because you're just making upgrades, and these guys, they don't see a path to play. That's why they're moving on. They probably will find a home pretty quickly.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, you got to make a move.
Yeah, no doubt. I totally agree. And it says that he took official visits to Oklahoma State, A&M, Oregon. You brought up Oregon, too. And Arizona State's another name that's kind of been brought up, too. He's going to look to run track, so Oregon. That does, actually.
That rings well for
does.
me. Yeah.
Another player transferring, Texas freshman linebacker Travell Johnson has requested to enter the transfer portal. This also comes from Rivals. Said Johnson was a 3-star prospect, one of the more productive linebackers in the state of Texas during his junior season. He's one of those guys. I believe he was the number 47 linebacker nationally and the number 74 player in the state of Texas in that 2022 class. He also moving on, Harge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, as we talked about a lot with these players, you can look out there and see, and you've heard this before, Rob, because it's an old saying. They always recruit somebody to replace you.
Yeah, they do.
Because that is how you provide depth. So if you're looking and you're saying, I didn't get on the field before, and now they're bringing in other guys that are on the field now, I might need to do something else. I might need to go somewhere else and take somebody else's position at another place.
Yeah, and it's just the reality of the transfer portal era that we live in. I mean, the free market has hit college football. It's official.
Hit it hard, too.
With the NIL and the transfer portal. And the other player is edge rusher. And this is, we thought edge rusher would be somewhere where you would need talent. Hell, linebacker, too, opposite of Jalen Ford. And you got guys that are still deciding to go find another path to play elsewhere rather than competing here at Texas. But the edge rusher, edge player, Derek Brown, also entering the transfer portal. He was, based on this ranking, number 35 edge nationally, number 53 player in the state in that 2022 class, also moving on to greener pastures.
They said that young man had 28 offers coming out of high school.
He'll be fine.
Yeah. I think he's going to find a spot.
He'll be fine. Like I said, this is
and they got good training while they were here.
They got good training. But this is necessary. This is, attrition is not only expected at this point in the transfer portal era, but it's welcomed in a lot of ways because Texas, I believe, is past their scholarship limit right now. I haven't done the numbers, but when you're past your scholarship limit, I believe it's 88, something like that, past scholarship limit. Not only do you got to get down to make sure you're under the scholarship limit or right at it, but then you want to bring in other transfer portal acquisitions. You want to upgrade at other positions or address concerns on your roster in terms of roster building. So you might need to get, a few more of these transfer portal exits from players because you just need to make room on your roster to upgrade. So, like I said, I think this is a good thing. Attrition now is nothing to be alarmed about. It used to be, but now with the transfer portal, there's an immediate way for you to fill those needs and those issues. And I've been tracking, and this is something in the social media age we live in that's become more common. That on social media, when we have exes that we break up with, they've done studies that people don't unfollow their exes as much as they used to. It used to be a big thing. You'd unfollow your ex. Now, a lot of people, they may stop.
Don't even block them no more.
You stop discussing. Yeah, you stop talking to them, and you obviously are not going to date them, and you may change your status, but you don't unfollow them. And a lot of that leads to kind of stalking your ex. Social kind of, you know what I mean? And it's nothing wrong with it. All right, it's cyber stalking, as long as you do it respectfully.
Do it from afar.
But a recent study from Western University found that 48% of people remain friends with their exes on Facebook. 88% check out their partner's page to see what they're doing. And I totally, I believe those numbers out there too. And I feel there's an element of that with the transfer portal. I do believe you should keep up with the players that leave your program, and strictly to find out where they're going, because I think that is a way to gauge the health of your program overall, and to gauge the health of your roster upgrades. Yeah. Right. Think about this. So Texas had 14 players that I counted last transfer cycle that ended up hitting the transfer portal. And I believe if you look at it, 11 of them went to a Power 5 or a Group of 5 school. You had Jalen Garth went to U of H. The O-lineman, Junior Angilau, went to Oregon. You had Jameer Johnson, who went to Indiana. Prince Dorba went to Arizona State, along with Troy O'Meary, Andre Carrick, Tennessee, Hudson Card, Purdue, Devin Richardson, Washington State. Ben Ballard went to Florida Atlantic. He was a walk-on. But I'm not insulting. I'm just saying that that's not scholarship, just to make sure, giving you specifics. But J.D. Coffey went to San Diego State. Ovia Gopher went to LSU. They did have two players, Isaiah Hall, I couldn't find a place for him, and Isaac Pearson. I didn't know where he ended up going. I think they had a long snapper as well. I did not count the long snapper. No disrespect to the long snapper. And DJ Harris ended up going to Tarleton State. So almost all the players who transferred from Texas ended up at a Group of 5 or a Power 5 program. To me, and I always say that one man's trash is another man's treasure. That shows the health of the Sarkisian upgrade.
Correct.
That with the roster, that the guys that are looking for a path to play elsewhere, not only are they finding a path to play elsewhere, they're coveted elsewhere.
Yep.
They're coveted. So I was never the guy that wanted my exes to do bad after they dated me. I want my exes to go on and do really well. I want them to go on and become, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Yes, and go find the love of your life and get married and have beautiful kids, all that kind of stuff. Because to me, I often gauge my taste, right, in women on how my exes perform once they're done with me.
Yeah.
She goes on and she's balling up to me. I'm like, yeah, see, I told you I got good taste in women. Man. I may have screwed it up when she was with me, but I got a really good taste. I know how to pick them.
Turn it back on myself. Make me look good.
Right? Yeah. I know how to pick them.
I knew what I was doing.
She's balling. Oh, she's she's balling now. She's a model now. An Instagram model. Yeah, I love that.
I inspired her.
You know what I mean? Oh, she married a millionaire. Great. I knew how to pick them. And that's how you should look at the guys that leave your program, or gals for that matter, in any program. Keep up with the ones that leave. They will determine the overall health of the upgrade. If you're upgrading and it's a legit upgrade, all those guys, they're going to be going to Group of 5 or Power 5 schools. If not, if they're all going to lower levels, if they're dropping down in the level of play, well, it shows you might have a bad picker.
Yeah.
You'll be choosing the wrong ones.
You can't do that.
I choose the right ones. All my exes are killing it. They're balling. Out of control.
Doing their thing.
Yeah, I know, because I cyberstalk them. No, I'm just kidding. All right, we'll come right back off the record on the other side right here on Baldo Live. What if we're not the Horn? Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert because actually I need to reach out to Dr. Greg Eckert. I just need a checkup. It's time for me to go into the dentist's office to make sure that I'm on top of my dental care and my dental hygiene, and you need to do the same before you have any major concerns. But if you have major concerns, you can still reach out to Dr. Greg Eckert because he's all about giving you the best quality dental care available. It doesn't matter what it is. A lot of us have dental anxiety, and I get it. I had it too, but they specialize in easing your dental anxiety. They'll make you feel good about that appointment. But general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to make sure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Greg Eckert is all about. Now, his team is fantastic. You're talking about an all-star team. That's what you get with Dr. Greg Eckert. Now, you spell it with a U, and that's appropriate because he's all about you. He's all about the patient. And right now, he can give any patient a brand new smile in just one day. That's right, permanently secured to your dental implants. We're talking about no time spent without teeth. You get temporary fixtures until they complete your permanent smile, and you'll smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. We're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So if someone's told you you need to have your teeth replaced, call Dr. Greg Eckert today and learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a brand new smile in just one day. Too good to be true? Nope, it's just Dr. U. Give him a call, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Man, I did not realize. I knew the soundtrack for American Psycho was pretty good. I got to tell you, I'm more impressed now, Patrick, than I've ever been, because I don't think I've actually heard all the songs on the soundtrack. I knew from the movie it was a good soundtrack.
Yeah, and there's a lot we're not going to play, too. I mean, like, it's a good...
It's eclectic. It's all
it
over
was
the
one
place.
of those ones when I was looking for stuff, because basically it came out 23 years ago Friday.
Oh, okay, so this week.
So it came out 23 years ago this week, and when I was looking through movies that came out, you're like, I bet this has a good soundtrack because music was central to it at a point. So you're like, they had to spend money for music. So it's normally like when you're looking at movies, like, do they want to spend the money to get the music they want, or they just kind of take what they can get?
And because it was so central to the character,
you knew they had to spend the money.
American Psycho, they had
built
to
into the budget.
Yeah, no doubt. It's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Midweek movie music edition of Ball Don't Lie. My man Patrick takes songs from a soundtrack of a movie that inspired him or is relevant for some reason or another, and he plays those songs for Harj and I on midweek movie music. And based on these selections, we're supposed to gather clues and hints that lead us to the featured film, which today is American Psycho. All right, we're going to get to story here for Off the Record, but we'll just, since we don't have a ton of time, I'll just give you an update on the Lamar Jackson story, because I wanted to get to this in NFL News Notes and Nuggets. Didn't have a ton of time. So Ian Rappaport said that Lamar Jackson did indeed recruit Odell Beckham Jr. He did drop that bomb. So
Makes sense why it was a 1-year deal.
Yeah. So Patrick, you were hinting that maybe that Baltimore overpaid, which they did. A dramatic and I think a ridiculous overvaluation of Odell Beckham Jr., but the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but if this is the guy that Lamar Jackson wanted and was recruiting him, and you're trying to rekindle, all right, your relationship with Lamar Jackson or trying to repair it, maybe you're right, Patrick. Maybe this is their desperate attempt to do it. I don't know. It's a bad attempt, in my opinion, to try to repair things.
Well, no, but this may be Lamar Jackson being like, look, I get it. I can't go anywhere else. Y'all screwed me. I'm going to have to play one more season here. I'm going to go get my guy for sign a 1-year deal, and then we'll both go somewhere else after the season.
You're right, because it seems like right now he's going to be playing there, whether he wants to, or he's not going to play at all.
Yeah, but I doubt he's not going to play if he's recruiting. It seems more and more after this story that he's resigned himself, that he's going to have to play one more year in Baltimore. And I think that may be the thing where he's just like, well, all right, let's do this one more year and then let me get another wide receiver and try and make my stats even better. And then maybe after this season, I'll go get that deal.
If he's recruiting players there, and Ian Rappaport, also part of the report, was saying that Odell Beckham Jr. went there with the knowledge, with the belief, I should say, that he will play with Lamar Jackson. Like, they're playing together and going there just to go there.
No, I mean, when we saw they were FaceTiming each other, it seems weird.
And they went to the club together.
Yeah.
They went clubbing together.
It seems weird that they've been hanging out together, and he's like, man, I'm glad you came here. I got to go.
So could this be could the Ravens try to turn this draft into a Kobe special, where they're basically trying to repair things with Lamar Jackson and then make some picks devoted to offense to try to entice Lamar Jackson to come back?
I mean...
Or would it be the opposite? Instead of an ode to Lamar Jackson, it's an FU to Lamar Jackson, where they draft a quarterback higher than everybody thought they were going to do, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know what else, because drafting an O-lineman actually fits kind of what the Ravens do. So that's not
and that's good for any quarterback.
And then they've got Rashard Bateman and Odell Beckham Jr. now, so you don't figure they're going to try and draft another wide receiver, at least not high.
They should. Even if they
I know they should, but they probably won't.
And they're bad at it.
They have a tight end in Mark Andrews, so they've got Mark Andrews, so they're good there. So really, and the running back wise, they could take another one. I think they're still hoping J.K. Dobbins is able to.
They're deep at running back. They're just never healthy.
That's the thing. J.K. Dobbins was supposed to be good, but then if you saw his knee last year, it looked like there's screws in it and stuff. It's a weird.
Don't look good.
Yeah, so I don't know what else they would really you could draft a wide receiver soon, but it doesn't seem like they would. It seems like they're going to try and help this defense, which they desperately need to do too. This defense is very beat up.
That's where they've been spending all their money. They spent the fewest amount
but it's not good.
They spent the fewest amount of salary cap dollars on offense in Lamar Jackson's years as a starter, and the second fewest dollars on the wide receiver position. They spending most of that money on defense. It's like, so why isn't the defense good? You've been spending money on defense.
Yeah, they're still not very good.
Still not very good. All right, there you go. A little update on the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. We'll come back. My man Craig Way, the voice of Longhorns, he and Jeff Howe on Light the Tower had an interview with the head coach, Steve Sarkisian. We'll replay that for you coming up next right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Ironworkers Local Union 482 because they've been helping shape this great city since 1935. You know that Austin's a beautiful city. We all love it. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the country because it has that aesthetic beauty. And part of that beauty, our good friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482, you see the labors of their love all over this great city and iconic landmarks like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. And as the city continues to grow and thrive, so does Ironworkers Local Union 482. They don't go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. Ironworkers Local Union 482 are hiring 3,000 people right now for a huge project. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. Maximize your potential and be your best self today by applying at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Midweek movie music edition of Ball Don't Lie. My man Patrick takes songs from a soundtrack, plays those selections for us, and based on the songs that are played, Harj and I are supposed to gather clues and hints that lead us to the featured film of midweek movie music, and it is American Psycho today. And this also, there are like 3 songs on this soundtrack that were on multiple soundtracks, movie soundtracks. So, yeah, this would have threw me off, too.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
It's one of those ones. Great soundtrack, but it's super hard to pinpoint unless you're thinking. And none of them sound like, a slasher flick.
No way. No, until you told me it wasn't a comedy, I kept thinking comedy because a lot of the songs seem like they'd be comedic in a sense. But it was a dark comedy. Can't forget that. It was just really dark. I don't know if my wife's
all
ever
these
seen American
songs
Psycho.
seem like the song of where like a hot girl goes by and the sunglasses
on the beach.
Every single one of these songs.
Exactly. Except he did wear sunglasses a lot.
Yeah.
Except he was probably murdering somebody.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen American Psycho, I'd recommend it. It's not, like I said, I don't know if the plot or anything is special, but Christian Bale's performance was jaw-dropping. I mean, he was big into the method acting, so he kind of immersed himself in the role. And I believe some of the stories surrounding him when he's playing the character in that movie are crazy because he wouldn't break character a lot. He wanted to stay in character a ton, too. Anyway, thanks, my man Patrick. Keeping us on our toes. Love that. All right, we got a interview here thanks to my man Craig Way, he's the man, the voice of the Longhorns. So he got the hookup, and he got Steve Sarkisian to call in and do a interview with the Light the Tower crew. And my man Jeff Howe of Horns 24/7, also of Longhorn Blitz. Also on this interview, I thought it was pretty good. So I know we had Steve Sarkisian go on the Pivot podcast, and I do have some audio from that Pivot podcast, but I thought this one actually was a little bit more relevant, and they got into a ton of other stuff. So we'll play a little cut from that Pivot podcast later on in the show. But here's the interview that Craig Way and Jeff Howe did on Light the Tower with Steve Sarkisian in its entirety right here on 104.9 The Horn.
Let's go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline and be joined by the head football coach at the University of Texas. Coach Sark is on the line with us now. Sark, I appreciate the time. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Craig.
You bet. I wanted to just give you an opportunity, and thank you to you and to John to make this happen, but I wanted to give you an opportunity, just to give an overview on how you felt so folks can hear it, how everything has gone through the spring, and then B, we'll just talk about a little bit about what your thoughts are about the spring game on Saturday. But first and foremost, the overview about how you've felt things have gone.
I think spring ball's gone really well. We had a little bit of a different format this year, having gone 3 practices and then going on spring break, and then coming back for the remaining 12. We practiced 3 days a week. I thought that our guys really bought in the winter conditioning program, and I think that has shown up here in spring ball. I think our guys physically look really good. I like the depth of where we're at. Naturally this year, as you touched on, we're able to have the spring game. Part of that's because we finally have some linemen. We finally have some depth. We're able to really have a solid 2 deep, and quite frankly, we can really have a 3 deep in practice, which is great. And so I love the projection of where that group is headed. Obviously, there's a lot of youth there. I haven't signed 12 players in the last 2 years on the offensive line. I love the competition that's happening at a number of positions right now, and I think that's healthy for all players to know that there's a guy, 2 or 3 at their position that is battling, that is pushing them to be the best that they can be. But I also think the competition is really healthy, offense and defense. That's always one of the hard parts as a coach. When you're going through spring ball and you're going against yourself, who do you want to win? How do you not, who you want to perform better than others? At the end of the day, I think competition is healthy. We're trying to minimize the mental errors. We're trying to push these guys to spaces that are uncomfortable so that they can get comfortable in those spaces. And I think it's gone really, really well. And, we've got one more practice tomorrow. And then we'll get after it here Saturday. But all in all, it's been a good spring. Knock on wood. We've been, the injury bug hasn't hit us too much in comparison to, I know how it's hit some other people. So it's gone well. I'm proud of the guys. I'm proud of the work they put in. We are by no means a finished product, but I think we've set ourselves up for a really good summer and then getting ourselves ready for fall camp.
Longhorns head football coach Steve Sarkisian joining us here on Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Way and Jeff Howe.
Sark, I asked you this during the signing day in December because you mentioned it when you first took the job. You wanted to establish a great developmental program at Texas, and I'd like to just kind of keep track of the markers in terms of where you're at. So as spring winds down, in terms of player development, and there's a lot of different areas that touches. Do you feel like you're on the track you want to be? Are you a little bit ahead, or do you feel like there's some more work to do? Where are you in terms of getting the player development aspect where you want it?
Well, I feel good. There's a lot of layers to player development, right? I think one is the actual play itself on the field. Our players developing into better players from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 and whatever stage they're in. Are they physically developing, right? In the weight room, with our training table, are we eating right? Are our bodies changing and developing that way? I think there's academic development, right? Is everybody, striving and working towards and earning their degree? And then I think there's just, kind of overall personal development, right? Are you becoming the man that we want you to be here at the University of Texas? And so I am really proud of the work that our guys have done. I'm proud of our staff and our organization. We invest a lot in our players. And in turn, I think we all can kind of see the byproduct of that. We see growth in a lot of different people, a lot of different players, and a lot of times you see that growth from year 1 to year 2 from a maturity standpoint, whether that's physical or mental. But also I see a lot of maturity in our team. I see a lot of development in our team and understanding the situations of the game. And we spend a lot of time on that because I think a lot of times those 1 or 2 plays at situational moments, that's the difference between winning and losing. And so through it all, I am proud of the work that our players have put in. I think there's a definite investment and commitment to trying to do it right and do it at a high level. But I'm also really proud of our staff and our organization and obviously the support of our administration to have the resources in place and then the commitment from all parties involved to put our players in position and invest in them so that they can develop. And so all in all, that piece I am really proud of. And sometimes it's hard to always equate that, or quantify that, sometimes with weight gains and different things. But, from a coach's eye and having seen these guys now for heading into year 3, I am really pleased with where we're at.
Sark, toward that end, you and I have talked about that C word a few times, that old culture thing. But I was really intrigued by some things that you said on that Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark yesterday. There was some real talk and some things about you setting the thermostat for the program. And I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about how comfortable you feel with this group now as you begin your 3rd season.
Yeah, I mean, I feel great with this group. We still have, there's still a fair amount of players on the team that essentially I inherited right when I got here. Whether it's the Trevondre Sweats or the Jordan Whittingtons or the Vernon Broughtons, the Alfred Collins. There's still a handful of those guys, and then there's still a group of guys that were signed in December. Prior to me getting hired in January that I didn't get a chance to really recruit, but they have been with us since day 1 when they arrived. And now we've got 2 recruiting cycles of our own of a group of players. But I think at the end of the day, everybody in our organization understands the standard here, understands the work ethic needed, understands our core values. I think you hear the conversation is a lot more natural, not just coming from me and the coaches, but amongst the players, amongst, when somebody new comes on board. I think the conversation with that new person doesn't always have to come from us, but it can come from other players, graduate assistants, trainers, strength staff. And so in the end, I feel very comfortable, to your point, about the temperature in our building. I think we're striving and working towards being a championship caliber football team. And, sometimes some people can hit that stride sooner than others. We just believe in our process of what we need to do. And I feel really comfortable. I feel great about this team because when I look at the way we look, I'm excited about that. I think that we've recruited well. I think the guys that have been here have developed their bodies and look tremendous. But beyond that, I like just kind of the culture that we've developed, and I think this is a very tight-knit building that we're in. We're one that is upbeat, is positive, but is relationship-based, and I don't think that anybody in our organization ever feels uncomfortable coming to talk to me about whatever it is, and that's always what I'd hoped I could develop here and instill here, and that to me as a coach, that's the beauty of it, because when you're connected that way on a personal level, man, that's a heck of a lot easier to go take the field and want to compete with one another and fight for one another for a common goal of winning a championship.
Sark, when you and Coach Milwee are breaking down quarterbacks, I know you've been asked a ton about quarterbacks this spring, but when you break down the practice film and the scrimmage film and look at really those top three guys with Quinn and Malik and Arch, how much of it is judging those guys based on kind of the baseline stuff, the non-negotiables, if you will, you guys have for the quarterback position? And then how much of it do you have to look at and say, okay, Quinn is on a different, trajectory because of experience than Malik, who, because he's been here a little bit longer, is on a different time clock, if you will, than Arch is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are all fair, assessments, because the reality of it is, right, we do have non-negotiables here, whether that's, work ethic, whether that's, quarterbacks aren't on any list here at the University of Texas, whether that's an academic list, whether that's an off-the-field issue, whatever that is. I mean, that there's a standard here in which the quarterback sets the tone, and we hold all quarterbacks to that standard. But there's also a driving force from providing energy, a level of intensity, a level of just their work ethic in which they go to practice, the work ethic that they put in off the field to prepare for practice, mentally, physically, whatever that looks like. But then you have to look at, okay, where are they? What is their knowledge base of what we're trying to do? And are they able to execute the things at the stage of where they're at in the program? And then how quickly can they elevate themselves to the next step and the next step and the next step? And that's really what we look at. And, decision making comes into those things, ability. A lot of, one of the things I assess a lot is, can they not make a bad play worse? When we use the adage, don't turn a fender bender into fatalities. Bad things happen in football. Guys miss blocks. Guys run the wrong routes. We don't, that's going to happen. It's okay to throw the ball away. They might know a screen is coming, throw the ball away, not throwing it to a defensive lineman, because those can be catastrophic errors. And the guys that can do that, that's a positive sign, because those are winning plays as well. As important as it is to throw that post route for a touchdown, it's equally as important not to force a ball into coverage when you're backed up and all of a sudden you throw a pick six. And so we evaluate a lot of those things. We also evaluate their ability to process what we are teaching them and then go out and when that opportunity presents itself again, not make the same mistakes twice. And then can they learn from others, right? Can they learn when the other quarterback's getting coached on something, can they learn from that? And so when they're put in that situation that another guy was, how do they react to it? So there's a lot of levels to this thing. And in the end, I think the quarterback, it's really critical, right? He instills belief in the entire organization. He instills belief into all 100,000 people in DKR on Saturday afternoons. That's what they do. That's why it's the most important position in sports. And so, who can do that? Who can inspire? Who can instill belief, but still yet play at a high level and move the chains and put points on the board and do all those types of things.
Which brings us to the spring game, Sark. I wanted to give you an opportunity just to tell fans a little bit about, what can they expect on Saturday? Come in. I think it's really cool. Obviously, there's going to be an autograph session for them with players at 9:30. But when you get into the spring drills, the spring game, the orange, white, what can fans expect to see on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, we're really excited about Saturday. 2 years ago, we were able to play a game from a roster management standpoint. Last year, we weren't as fortunate, just with the limitations on the offensive line, most notably. But this year, we're able to do it again. So we are going to have an autograph signing actually at 9 a.m., Craig, on Bevo Boulevard, and looking forward to the fans being out and interacting with them. Getting around that, and then we'll get the players, get them eating breakfast and getting in meetings and getting themselves ready to go, and then we'll kick the ball off at about 1:00. It'll be an orange and white game. Obviously the quarterbacks won't be live. And some of the special teams, we're going to execute the special teams, but those sessions won't be live. And then we're going to go play ball. And we're going to allow a lot of players to play. And again, it's as much for the fans to see our players, but for some of our players, it's performing in front of fans. For some of our new players, this will be the most people they've played in front of in their lives. And so getting them acclimated to some of that coming out of the tunnel. There's always conditions that can show up. It's going to be hotter Saturday than it's been all spring. And so how do we respond to that? And so there's a lot of things that the evaluation continues for me. But at the end of the day, I want our players to go out and have fun. They've worked really hard all winter. They've worked hard. It will end up being through 14 practices by Saturday. Their fans will get a chance. Their families will get a chance to kind of come see a little bit of the finished product of where they're at to this stage of the year. And then when we get done with that spring game, then we'll get back in the lab in the summer and in fall camp and get ourselves ready for September.
All right, Sark, we'll let you go with this. We had a question for the listeners this morning. If there was one phrase or a mantra or a motto, it didn't even have to be. It could just be a phrase, that your father or mom or uncle or grandfather, something that somebody said to you that just stuck with you. I have a feeling we may already have the answer when you said don't turn a fender bender into a fatality with regard to your quarterbacks. But was there something that someone said to you, a phrase that's just kind of stuck with you all these years?
Wow. I'm big into reading. I'm big into watching podcasts. I'm big into all this kind of stuff. And so you haven't been in my office lately, Craig, but I've got a whole wall of things that matter to me, right? And things that stick with me that I hold on to. But I think one that really stands out to me is bring the best version of you today.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. What is that best version of you today? Bring that, right? That's all we're asking of. We're not asking for superhuman efforts. Whatever your job is, whatever your role is in an organization or in your family or in your household or in the relationship that you're in, what's the best version of you look like? And can you bring that day in and day out, right? And that's something that I've always held on to. But I got all sorts of stuff, man, that really matter to me, that I hold on to, that I think – ultimately, hopefully shape me, that in turn is hopefully shaping our organization. Because I do believe this, teams take on the personality of their head coach. And the more I can instill truly who I am, I think that the more natural it's going to be kind of, culturally and the personality of our team come the fall.
Sark, I appreciate you taking a few minutes here during this really busy time. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday, and glad to hear things have gone so well with spring drills, and we'll look forward to the spring game on Saturday. Thanks again for taking some time with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Jeff. See you
all. Right. Thanks, Sark.
All right, that's Craig Way and Jeff Howe, Like the Tower, one of my favorite programs. You can hear it right here on 104.9 The Horn from 10 to noon weekdays. If you missed any part of that interview, it is on the podcast page, so go to hornfm.com. I like the last question by Craig. I think he was talking about this on Like the Tower, a saying or something that stuck with you. We were talking about this randomly earlier today, and it has stuck with every Longhorn fan out there. Every Longhorn fan remembers these what have become almost prophetic words and very wise words from one Charlie Strong. Now, Charlie Strong didn't get a lot of things right here at Texas. We know that. But he might have gotten this right, and he was very, like I said, it was prophetic, foreshadowing when he was with Craig on the coach's show at Pluckers, and he uttered these very wise words that we all need to reflect more on.
But that's why I say social media will be the downfall of society. Don't ever forget that.
I love that Charlie said, don't ever forget that. He felt that in his soul. That's why he said, don't ever forget that. He felt that time. He's like, don't ever forget that, Craig. And if you look at it, CB sent us the actual video of it. He's serious. We all took it as a joke. Yeah. He is. Craig's laughing. He's serious. Because that's the talk he's had with his daughter and his family. And everybody say, Charlie, would you just shut up? Nobody cares. We love social media. He's like, I'm telling you, we'll be down for society. And now, what are we, 20 years into this thing now? Can we all agree? It's closer to being the downfall of society than helping society. They're being a benefit to society.
Yeah, I don't think too many people are like, man, what a great invention. Like there's positives to it, but if we're judging it, it's at best a 7th round pick.
Exactly, and not mystery relevant. It's going to make the squad. No, I'm with you on that one. I love that. At best, it's a 7th round pick. Okay, real quick, we got one more piece of audio from Sark. This was from the Pivot podcast, the podcast that has Ryan Clark on it and Fred Taylor's on it. Got a lot of great players involved with it, and they get a lot of great guests too. Sark was invited on the Pivot podcast, and I'm not sure where they were at, if this was in a facility or in his office. His wife's there. His wife, L'Oreal, is there with him. So I don't even know. Maybe it has new house. I have no idea where it is at all. But he's asked about a lot of things. It's like an hour long, and it was really good. But it's in depth. There's a lot of fluff in it. So we didn't play a ton. But this is my favorite quote from the Steve Sarkisian Pivot podcast when he's talking about why he's so excited about this team particularly. I hope this cut gets you excited as it got me. Here it is.
Today, now I go through it and I see it. I try to see it. I really watch our team. Like I was just telling my brother-in-law the other day, I said, this looks like my team. And it's year 3. I said, it feels and looks like my team. The way the players talk, the way they act, what they look like, the way they move, the way they run, how we practice, the speed, the tempo, all of those things, man. I'm like, okay, now we're about ready to go. This is what it's supposed to look like. And we need to, because we're going to the conference you guys just came from.
Oh, yeah, big time. That's big time.
There you go. It's his team now. He basically just said it. It looks like my team. They act like guys that I would have recruited. They look like them. They run like the guys. They play like the guys that I would have recruited. This is Sark's team. No reason for them not to be a championship team. Is a Sark team a championship team then? Make it look like a Sark team, but if it's a Sark team that goes up there and wins 8 games, we're like, well, Sark teams suck. I don't want a Sark team. I'm assuming the Sark team, it looks like his teams, and this is exactly how he wanted to construct and build this roster, and it looks exactly how he wants it. It's a championship team.
Yeah, I'm judging his Sark team is a mix between USC and Alabama. In his brain, that's what he wants his team to be.
Okay, there you go. That's a good point. In his brain, that's what he wants it to be.
He wants it to be.
How close are we to that?
We're going to find out this season, ain't we?
We will find out this. That's a great point. We'll find out. It got me excited, though. I'm glad that Sark has turned over the roster enough now where it's like I said, it's his roster. Hopefully, it's Sark's roster and not Coach Stevens' roster, because I don't like Coach Steven. I love Sark, though. There's a big difference. All right, we come back. We'll dive into the Masters ratings. Actually, the Masters ratings are out, and it's showing you, once again, villains are good for sports. We'll come back and talk about it right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. And this song would have also thrown me completely off the scent of midweek movie music. Because this is actually in, I know, another movie. Because is it Paid in Full? What is it?
Yes.
Yes, I believe it's in Paid in Full. But anyway, this is a great soundtrack.
Yeah. Soundtrack's great. Super confusing if you didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did not know this was on there, but I imagine it's probably in some scene of the movie I'm not thinking about.
I think it's when they walk into a restaurant.
Okay, there you go. My man Patrick, he is the innovator of midweek movie music and one of my favorite musically themed days of the week. He takes songs from a soundtrack, plays those songs for us, and based on these selections, Harj and I are supposed to gather clues and hints that lead us to the featured film of midweek movie music. And this week, it is American Psycho. Well done there, Patrick. All right, let's get to, actually, there's some breaking news that we have to get to. This actually just hit the Twitter sphere, if you will. So Longhorn basketball fans probably maybe a little bit anxious about this news, but it's not necessarily all bad and doom and gloom. It's kind of a new age thing where a player declares for the NBA draft while also maintaining eligibility. That will be the case for Dylan Mitchell, Patrick. He put out a statement via his on the gram. I don't want to say Instagram like an old man. On the gram. And he is basically saying he's excited to announce that he's declaring for the 2023 NBA draft while maintaining my college eligibility. So there you go. Which means he gets the evaluation, whatever it is, where he's projected.
And Dylan Mitchell may go because it is one of those things, especially later in the first round. He could be a late first round, early second round pick because if you look at his potential, his size, his athleticism, somebody may say we can get you, put you in our G League for a year or two, or try and get you some playing time, and maybe you'll be able to be someone for us in a few years. So it is possible. The question is, he knows if he stays another year, he could be a lottery pick. And do you want to stay another year, gamble on yourself, be a lottery pick, and see if you want to, and try and elevate your game to where you're going to make more money off the bat. You're going to get an actual opportunity. You're probably not going to be playing G League, really. You'll be playing on the NBA team, those types of things. Or if he decides, look, man, school ain't for me. I don't want
to play school no more.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. You know what? I did it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead. Because I know if I go back there, then maybe I won't even be, I wasn't playing a ton of minutes this year.
He was not?
He was starting, but not playing a ton of minutes. So, it could go either way. The statement would lead you to believe that he really wants to enter the draft because he is thanking everybody, and he says he's leaving eligibility open, but doesn't necessarily say, hey, I may be coming back or not. But it all is going to depend on if he goes there and they go, you're a mid-second-round pick. We know Greg Brown went a couple years ago.
Yeah, man.
He has already got cut from the Trailblazers and went, and he was a guy that if he would have stayed another year and done more, he could have gone higher and he could have been more refined. But he did not want to go to school anymore. He didn't want to be around it. He didn't want to be part of that system. So, and then he found when he went to the NBA, it's like, no, it's the same stuff. People are still going to yell at you.
You still have the same issues.
They're still going to yell at you.
You have more time now to work on them.
They may not be yelling at LeBron. They're still going to yell at you.
Yeah, no, that's fair about Dylan Mitchell. And he is explosive, though. Man, he does have an amazing his leaping ability. He just explodes, and so I can see the raw material there. But you're right; he's gonna bet on himself essentially, bet on himself to be a lottery pick, or is he saying, "Hey man, I just want to go get paid. I want to get paid to play. That's it. I need to get paid to play.
Yeah.
As soon as I can get paid to play, the better."
Yeah, and it's not even just because he's getting paid to play in Texas
fair.
too.
NIL, but
I think there's more of the line.
He become a professional.
I mean, technically, he might make less money in the league his first year than he can make at UT, possibly.
We don't know what his NIL deal.
We don't know what his NIL deal is, but if it's a second round pick, then it's probably going to be around $200,000 a year, which is good money. But you could technically make more in NIL if you're playing well on a good team. But I will say the question is going to be: do you want to go through all the other rigmarole of going to class, studying, doing all that stuff?
Yeah.
That is where a lot of these kids are just like, dude, I ain't trying to be a brain surgeon. I just want to ball. So why am I going through? I had to do it for 1 year.
I want to be a pro ball player.
Yeah, and so that may be the course he takes, and it's really going to depend. Some people have him scouted right around that late first round, early second round is kind of where they're scouting him right now. But if someone falls in love with him, if he's improved his game a little bit over the offseason, but he could be that his game too is going to come down to, does he shoot well in the tryouts and stuff?
That's what I'm going to say. When you declare but maintain eligibility, do you still go to the combine and everything? Can you still work out and all that kind of stuff?
Because there will be a point where you have to pull back out of it. But yes, you can go and do a lot of those things. Yeah.
That's where he probably can answer a lot of these questions.
Yeah, and when he starts playing with other, in scrimmages against other guys that are at that level, does he look like he's in over his head or not?
Yeah, we'll be hearing if his draft stock is rising or falling in those off-season workouts and everything. But there you go. Obviously, Tyrese Hunter is also in the same, not in the same boat, but he also has declared similar status.
Tyrese Hunter
declared for the draft, but maintained eligibility.
Tyrese Hunter is a different case of people are high on some of the stuff he can do. I think they were higher on him last year than they were this year. But also his size is going to be an issue. And so I think one of the reasons a lot of guys want to see him is see him in person, to see his size really up close, get the measurements and all that stuff, and do the measurables with Tyrese Hunter.
That's a great point.
That they want to do on their terms.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point there. So Longhorn basketball, obviously still dealing with just off-season turnover. I think whether you're talking about transfer portal, which I'm sure is going to be a part of it too, or you're talking about guys who are declaring for the NBA draft, a lot of turnover that Coach Terry's got to deal with.
We should get the announcement from Dylan DeSue, the same thing, pretty soon.
Yes, I'm with that. There, I actually heard from somebody behind the scenes that is something that is being settled. Yeah. Whether he's going to decide, that
to keep
declare
eligibility or not,
or whether he's coming right back. Yeah.
But I assume he's going to
he's going to declare.
He's going to declare, and it's going to be, does he maintain eligibility or not, or does he just say
hire an agent?
Yeah. But that is one. I know that Rodney Terry's even said Dylan DeSue's decision will probably come sooner rather than later.
I think it will too, from what I've heard. Like I said, I don't have a ton of sources with that kind of thing, but I have heard that decision is coming. Post-haste, potentially. Okay, real quick, we got some transfer portal news that give it then and take it away from Texas football. Travell Johnson was a linebacker. He is reportedly hitting the transfer portal. That comes from Inside Texas. Rivals reporting that Brennan Thompson, the wide receiver, also hitting the transfer portal, and that Derek Brown, the edge rusher, also hitting the transfer portal for Texas. So 3 players right now reported, I should say, to be hitting the transfer portal. Real quick, want to pay off the T's. Masters final round ratings, highest in 5 years, Patrick, since 2018. The final round averaged 12 million viewers. That's up 19% from 2022. Most viewed round of golf and on any network since 2018, that Masters final round. Final round viewership peaked at 15 million around 7:15 Eastern. And for that third and final round combined, they had around 16.2 million viewers. In that Thursday coverage for like ESPN, they had 2.9 to 2.5 million viewers. But it seems like the sports world really was captivated by that final round. And I always said villains. The Live, we know the Live guys. They were well represented. They had Phil Mickelson was the Hollywood Hogan of the Live Tour. He ended up second. Brooks Koepka led for most of the Masters. So the Live guys were well represented, and they were natural villains. Villains create conflict. Conflict creates storylines. Hell, Tiger Woods ended up, having to leave the Masters early. Like, he basically left the Masters. So that Tiger Woods was not a storyline at all, and you still managed to get buku ratings. That's a really good sign for golf.
Yeah. I will say, though, I think some of these other sports need to look at Sunday afternoons and Sunday evenings, because after we've seen this and the women's basketball tournament, you're like, man, Sunday afternoons when people are at home, they're hanging out, they're willing to put on a game and watch something with the family.
That's true.
I'm aiming for that more than Monday nights or two. It seems to be that in today's society, that is the most open day that people are watching stuff.
Well,
on.
It goes without saying, the NFL.
Yeah.
They share that.
It's the highest ratings. It seems like the highest rated everythings are on Sundays.
That's a great point. Hey, man, my favorite TV shows are on Sundays. Succession's on Sundays. Great TV show.
Great time slot.
Yeah, you're right. It's aggressive. Actually, you might be on to something there, Patrick. All right, we'll come back, let you know what's on tap right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Getting ready to wrap it up and put it in the oven. Before we do, we'll let you know what's on tap. If you missed any part of any of the shows, please go to hornfm.com. You can catch up with them on the podcast page. Before we get to what's on tap, coming up next, you got the Wednesday Night Flex. The Flex crew's already out there. Zach Lucero's out there, man. Cameron's out there. The Seed, Nolan's out there. Man, it's they got a ton of guys chipping in. I even saw Jack here. I don't know if Jack's contributed or not, but he's here too. So they got the Flex crew ready to go. They're going to have Keaton Quebeca, the Westlake wide receiver who's also committed to Kansas to play football. I was talking to him about Lance Leopold. He's really excited. And also they're going to have on the Dripping Springs head coach, Coach Zimmerman, head football coach, Coach Zimmerman, and also the athletic director. He's going to join them as well on the Wednesday Night Flex. All right, Patrick, what you got on tap, brother?
I'm going to take a bunch of medicine and see how much basketball I watch before I pass out. What about you?
That's good. I like that. I'm going to watch a lot of NBA basketball. I'm watching both of the play-ins. That's what I got on tap tonight. Thanks, Patrick, for everything you do, and thanks, my man, Harge, as well. He'll be back tomorrow. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on Ball Don't Lie. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Peace.